recorded.
Thank you, moderator. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the California Acupuncture Board meeting. My name is Dr. Amy Matecki. I am the president of the board. Today is Friday, December 18th, 2020. We present for the Day 2 Acupuncture Board meeting. Let's start, have the roll call. Is Christine here?
Yes, good morning.
Would you please establish the quorum, please?
Dr. Amy Matecki, I'll start with you.
Present.
Kitman Chan.
Present.
Yang Ping Chen.
Present.
John Harabedian.
Here.
Francisco Kim.
Present.
Shudong Lee.
Present.
Ruben Osorio.
Present.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. We're all present.
Thank you, Christine. Let's move to the agenda. Yesterday I have talked about the board for the last year. We had the hardship, and also I really appreciate the stakeholders has been working with the board to go through this challenging time together. So I won't repeat what I said yesterday. So let's move on to agenda item number 18, open up for public comment on the items not on the agenda. So moderator, if you can help to open up for the public comment, please.
Absolutely. So at the direction of the board, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to make a public comment, please submit "I would like to make a comment" in the Ask field and send to all panelists. You can locate this feature by locating the question mark inside the box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. All comments will be addressed in the order they are received. You will be provided 3 minutes and given a 30-second warning. Please keep in mind that if you choose to use profane language or go off topic, your microphone may be muted. With that, I will now pause a moment to allow individuals time to access this feature. We do have a request come from Lauren Brown. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you, Lauren Brown. I am a provider, and I wanted to make a comment about the policy change regarding the fee structure for renewal of distance learning courses. As a provider, it seems unreasonable that courses that have been approved will continue to have new applications on an annual basis, and the fee structure will require or could cause hardship to providers, to teachers, and to the licensed acupuncturists. As one of the larger stakeholders, there's several providers that I've talked to, none of us were consulted during this policy change. We've looked at the legal documentation. It looks like it's in the administrative capability of the board to have the renewals not be part of this $10 an hour fee. For example, we think it's reasonable that the new fee of $500 for the board to run the CU department it's reasonable. The $10 an hour for new applications, it is reasonable. The $10 an hour to continue to have the library renewed does not seem to be reasonable. Other boards have a bulk rate. We've sent some submissions of ideas. Again, we were not part of the in this discussion if they want our input, but we see many fallouts. The letter has been sent to the board. We're happy to make that public as well. But again, as providers, we see many ways that this is going to impact the profession. We as providers will have to reduce our library, which means other states will have a much larger library of continuing education, as we'll keep them available for other regulatory bodies, but they won't be available for California. This will shrink the resources available for the licensed acupuncturists in California. It will also require many teachers to no longer to afford to do their courses, again restricting the resources available for the profession. The main point here as I close is looking at the legislation. It does not seem to specifically state that on-demand courses require a new application. So new live webinars, new distance courses, we see that that's in the legislation. But the courses that have already been created, it looks like it's in the board's administrative ability to have this be different and have a renewal rate at a bulk rate. That is not the way they've set their policy up.
30
Thank
seconds.
you. And so I just like the board to address this, to look at this again and review our letter in more detail. We are open for discussion. We think the current policy that is set up on the renewal of on-demand courses does not seem to be reasonable, is unreasonable. The other changes we do see as reasonable. Thank you.
Our next public comment comes from Philip Yang. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Yes, this is Philip Yang, representing AACMA, the association. From the current fee schedule about the license renew, our association have discussed about the price. We understand the acupuncture need to raise the price because the cost is higher than the income. So we understand, but we hope because of the COVID-19 situation, a lot of acupuncturists the clinics are not open or very, very slow business. So if it's possible to postpone this raising the price after the COVID-19. Another is the fee about the wall license, charge for $50 for each license. It is better take up this one to keep the original policy. So that's the suggestions from our association. Thank you.
At this time, we have no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please.
Feature has been closed.
Thank you, moderator. So now we will move on to agenda number 19, Executive Officer's Report. Mr. Ben Boudia, please.
Thank you kindly, Madam President. Turning to the first report, the budget update. If members and stakeholders will turn to item 19. Moment. What we have on the first here is our analysis of our fund condition. And what we have listed starting on the left is the past year. The CY is the current year. BY is the budget year, that's the upcoming year, and then you see +1, +2. We always try to give 1 year retrospective with 3 years projections. And what you'll note is that our beginning balance does drop as we cross that. But if you drop down to the revenues and transfers section, the second section, then you'll see that the fee increases, which will be hitting in the middle of the current year, starting January 1st, will start to increase the fees that we do collect. So you'll take a look further down, and you'll note that the revenues do start to increase and stabilize around $3.8 million in the coming years. But if you go all the way down to the bottom of the page, on the left-hand side, you'll see months in reserve, and the drastic drop to 5.9 months in reserve after this current year. And then it hovers around there and stays at 4. Now, the drop between last year and this current year is because of our expenditures on our new IT infrastructure to allow for the online license renewals, as some of our licensees have begun to use that, and forthcoming additional services that we'll be able to provide to our licensees and our applicants. Additionally, applicants can apply for the California Acupuncture Licensing Examination online as well. And any questions on this first document from the board members?
Yeah, Ben, this is
Yes,
Ken. I have a question.
please.
Look at your year 2020 and 21 fiscal year
Okay.
for expenditure, 4.8 billion, and this one is some compare with the previous year and projected another next 3 years. How come the year 2020 and 21 fiscal year expended 4.8 billion? And
Thank you for, apologies, go ahead, Kevin.
And then the next 3 years is still in the 3.6 to 3.8 range, and so it's 1 billion higher. Or was that some kind of special expenditure on this year 2020 and 21?
Yes, thank you for that question. I did not completely go down the list. So that is actually more representative of the $1.1 million that we received in the budget change proposal to allow for the implementation of our IT system. And that's why you don't see those high numbers moving into the future years, because all that expenditure is happening in this year for the most part, and some of it will happen in the next fiscal year. A little bit happened in the previous fiscal year.
Oh, that's good. Thank you, Ben. And also the reserve, isn't that be below the 6 months, and how we're going to address raise the revenue? Because I remember once your reserve dip to the less than 6 months, you have to think about how to balance the budget. So looks like next four fiscal year under the 6 months. So is it the revenue is it going to have fees on the next 3 years? Looks like your projected the revenue are the same next 3 years. So your expense is about the same, but our reserve is under 6 months. That's what we have to do something about it. Make that reserve come 6 months or more. Okay, otherwise we run out of money soon.
Indeed, and a great observation there. The state typically assesses a healthy month in reserve at between 4 to 6 months. So technically, we are in that safe space. Now, obviously, the trend we're seeing there is that it is decreasing. And this was the primary reason that when working with both the third-party fee audit and their recommendation, and with our work with the DCA, and with the legislature as well, is why we requested a fee floor, which is what we received, and that fee floor, which goes into effect in January, covered our business costs as of 2019, not as of 2020. So, and then additionally, you'll note that the legislation has a fee cap. So we have now, as the board, have the authority to go in via regulation, because the statute provides us that discrepancy, and increase the fees. So if in 2 years, let's say by the 2022-2023 fiscal year, we see that this reserve continues that downward trend, and it's going to dip in the coming years after that below the 4.0, then we can start a regulatory package to increase the particular fees that we have ranges within.
That's good. So at least we address that, and I know you are going to pay attention on things, because keeping on that is not money. So thank you, Bank. Will pay their attention on training.
Certainly, and yes, it is definitely alarming, especially because historically the board has always had a number of months in reserve, and the reason for that is there was over a $5 million loan from the board's special fund provided to the general fund, and that was out for some time and only started being paid back in the last 2 years. And we had to have that $5 million loan completely paid back and tapped our resources for us to even begin the fee process. So that's why it's taken us so long to get to the fee increase that is coming in January. And we will be now working with a more closely monitored budget at the 4 to 6 months level. So we will be paying attention. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Ben.
Very welcome. Any other questions on the first document from board members? All right, if you please turn to the second page. This is our expenditure report for fiscal month 13, which is technically the whole fiscal year. And this just gives you a snapshot of our costs, what we're budgeted. So in the first, the top section, we have the personnel costs. And you'll note after the fiscal code, you have the budget. And then the current month is just here for year 13, my understanding, and I'll make sure to confirm this next time. It's the average for the whole year. But year-to-date expenditures, so our permanent positions, we had several vacancies, including one in the staff services manager level 1 for essential services. So we were able to receive some savings there. Temporary positions, you'll note that we are budgeted, and it's not an exact amount. It's not like we cannot exceed that. And here it shows 19,000. But year-to-date, we've spent 62,000. And this is showing that we are highly dependent on clerical staff, and this will actually be one of our indicators to look at a budget change proposal to be able to have permanent positions, because right now when you have a temporary position, it's not always figured into your projected budget. As you note, 19,000 is being assessed as what the expectation is we'll be paying. And then just going through staff benefits, and then if you drop to the second section, we have operating expenses and equipment, and you'll see those totals, both the what has been budgeted. Again, you see if you go down to line item 5324, facilities, we are budgeted 65,000, but we expend 134,000, so we are technically over the expectation. But again, this is an expectation, and we have had a number of years where this number just doesn't align, and we've been we've been in this building since 2012. So we're going to try to continue that, updating that, working with the budgets office to update that, just so that it doesn't stand out. There is nothing wrong here with that. It stands out as an odd number that we're constantly 69,000 or in that range over the expectation. Any questions or comments from the board members on the fiscal month 13 report? Seeing none, I will go ahead and move to the staffing report. Bear with me. In September of 2020, we've been able to select a manager, a staff services level 1 manager, and we are joined by Melissa Garcia, who's had extensive knowledge at DCA and also has been a manager at departments outside of the state, outside of the department, but still at the state. So we really look forward to her organizational expertise, and she's already stepped in and really ramped up our hiring process. And I will discuss the vacancies remaining shortly. We've also been joined by Enrico Garcia as our management services technician, and he's been helping us with our digitizing of all of our documents so that we can move to the newer formats and have documents more readily accessible for staff, and also cut down on the space storing required on those documents. We also have been joined by Mohammed as a seasonal clerk, who's been helping us again with the digital project and with the filing. In January, we'll be joined by David Brugman, our central services analyst. He'll be focusing on regulations, and we will be looking to start interviews for the enforcement analyst position in January. We just had the advertisement closed, so we're really looking forward to having an additional enforcement analyst, as we have been making progress on meeting our enforcement timeframes, but additional help is required, and that was identified in the BCP, where we received this position along with the business modernization to address any backlogs that might be created from that and the additional workload we've gotten. I would also like to just take a moment. It's a little unrelated, but it's still related to staffing, and just point out the work that we've done yesterday with the disciplinary guidelines. I mentioned that the board had been reviewing that for a number of years, and I just wanted to thank Christine Brothers for her service, her public service to us. She's been working with both the disciplinary guidelines and the uniform standards since 2011, and we really appreciate your expertise, and it's really something to be able to take this across the finish line. So thank you, Christine, for your continued service and dedication to the people of California and to the Acupuncture Board. That said, I also would like to honor my staff who have been unfailing in meeting the intense requirements that this pandemic has placed on us, both in terms of the 10% pay cut, roughly 10%, just under, that was mentioned yesterday by President Mateki, as well as addressing a shorter budget that we now have to undergo, as our DCA representative, Deputy Director Carrie Holmes mentioned yesterday. And we've all been challenged. We've all had to address our family needs and the various things, and all our staff are addressing that workload as much as possible. I would also like to thank Enrico and Mohammed and Sandra for being in here every day. They are here answering the phones and opening the mail so that business can continue. So thank you very much, staff, for your dedication to protecting the people of California. And that is all from my staffing update. Do I have any questions from the board members? Seeing none, I will go ahead and move to the third item, the business modernization update. And here I would like to tap Jay for the update itself, and also mention that Jay has been working on this for the entire year, and it has required a lot of his time and attention, and he's still been focusing not only on this, but also on all this policy that we discussed yesterday. As you saw, he led the charge on a number of those items, and we're really grateful for Jay's dedication and expertise as well. Jay, if you would kindly please give us the update.
Hey, great. Thank you, Ben, and thanks for the kind words. As part of our business modernization drive that we're doing, I am the project owner on the plan, and basically that means I'm a project manager for the Acupuncture Board. And the Acupuncture Board is working in a cohort of three other DCA programs: the Office of Information Services and the California Department of Technology, and with the software developments in Lumen. And so far we've completed Project Increment 1, and what that includes is the ability for licensees to renew their license online, and they can pay with a credit card and see the results of that online in their portal. Also, exam applicants can offer their application online and move through that process, tracking it online, as well as complete their initial licensing process. And all those, they don't need to contact the board unless there's something else going on, but they can really manage their work when they need to, as you know, as they're available. Now we have moved into Project Increment 2, which is almost complete, and this includes the full wall license capability and to manage that online. So as of shortly, it probably won't be online until 1/1/2015 online, although we will have a paper application available at the first of the year. But that new license type, that new functionality will be online. And this took a combination of developing some things in our existing licensing system, CAS, to talk to the new Connect system. And so that is coming through. This will also, in Project Increment 2, will also include the capability of cashiering all of the new continuing education functions for the board in the back office. And then moving on to Project Increment 3, which will be coming up after the first of the year. In that part, we'll be getting a full development of the continuing education program, including a provider portal where they'll be able to manage everything, submit applications, pay, do everything online, and back office will actually be able to manage it as well. And also, we'll be developing the exam retake at that point. And that's where we're at with the plan. It's been a fairly interesting Herculean effort between OIS and the other boards and bureaus we're working in. There's a lot of camaraderie, and we've seen a lot of use by licensees now doing renewals. And eventually this will take some load off staff, so they'll be able to focus on more analytical and more developmental policy aspects rather than clerical technical work. So that's where the project stands, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate the update. Board members, do we have any questions or comments regarding the business modernization update? I see member Kim, please.
Yes, so this business modernization has been initiated, I believe it was 3 years ago?
Yes, we started the process quite some time ago, back in 2017.
17.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also the fee increase initiation also started around that time.
We've been working on the fee increase with the budget's office, not the increase itself, but addressing the need for a fee increase since at least 2013, 2014, when it was identified. And that's when we that's when we knew that we had to receive the $5 million that was in the general fund, a loan to the general fund, and then we had to tap that. And so that has been going for some time. The fee study itself was, the contract for the fee study was done towards the end of 2018. But the direction to move that, this strategic plan item was done at the beginning of 2018. And technically, the plans for that were started roughly in 2017. So yes.
Yeah, thanks for the refreshing the memory. As far as I remember, until 2016, 17, I believe there was a lot of financial problem, and as soon as I became a board member on this, I noticed, and there were a lot of concerns. But now I hope, with all this business modernization, I hope all the financial status has been more stable, and so that board can provide a better service for the licensees and the consumers affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kim. Yes, we will be realizing some efficiencies and some savings, as Jay mentioned, in terms of reducing some of the clerical load on our analysts. Yes, we are very hopeful that it will help streamline some of the processes internally. Any other questions or comments? Apologies. Any other questions or comments from board members?
Yes, Ben.
Please.
I kind of like followed Member Kim. The question also is with this business modernization. I know last year there is a bigger part of you and the staff has been working on it. So would this in the coming year will be better, with the staff and also with your effort to spend on this, or do we come to the end? I know this has been started a few years already. Would it still require a lot of your time and staff time, or do we come to the end?
Thank you for your question, Dr. Matecki. Yes, this project is planned out for at least another 6 months of major development, and then another 1.5 years of maintenance and operations and fine-tuning. So this is a long-term project, but unlike previous software or previous generations of software projects where the work was done, I believe the metaphor is, or the analogy is a waterfall where it all comes down at one point and you get the system that you asked for at one point. We're using an agile methodology, which is why you're hearing Jay talk about MVP, or minimal viable product, or minimum viable product, which is what we had in September, where licensees could renew online. So we had functionality starting in September, and we slowly roll functionality out as we agilely develop the services we are seeking to provide our licensees and our stakeholders. And so the development will continue for at least another 6 months. The major developments need to keep going, then it will move into the maintenance and operations and be spread out. But we do have plans for the major items to be done over the next few months.
Thank you. And then my another question, I know you already reported in the finance part. So last year there is a bigger part, the expense for the IT key, right? So the question is, the coming year, would this will be less, or this is still going to be of it?
It will start to drop, as you saw in the budget. Notice the price did drop back to under 4 million for the future year, or the budget year, as it's referred to. So yes, this was a incidental, how should I say, a point in time cost. And we will have ongoing maintenance and operation costs, but those are figured into those projections there.
Good, thank you.
Certainly.
No question, right?
Any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing no hands raised, I would like to open it up for public comment. Moderator, please.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened the Q&A panel for public comment. I do want to advise that as I was closing the last public comment section, we did get a last-minute comment that came in. I would like to give this individual time to make their comments, and then we will move into the public comment for this particular agenda item, if that is okay.
Madam President, are you okay with us opening? Perhaps we should just keep it to this agenda item, and then we can go back to since we are in this agenda item, legal counsel. Does that seem appropriate, as opposed to opening a previous agenda item in the middle of agenda item?
No, I think it's fine if if that individual was supposed wanted to have his comment in the last session. I think it's fine if we have it first and then. It's up to the board president, but either way is fine.
Thank you, legal counsel. Madam President, are you okay with this?
We could do is, let's finish this item and then we open up to the previous one.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sounds fabulous. Our first public comment comes from Neil Miller. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. To address this particular issue, my name is Neil Miller from California Acupuncture Traditional Medical Association, CalAPMA. I want to compliment Ben and his team, Jay, and I'm glad that Ben made a special announcement about the contributions of Christine Brothers, having been attending all of these acupuncture board meetings since these people first came to the board and have become part of staff. She's really been a hero. She's an unsung hero, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I think that your staff has done a tremendous job this year through a very difficult time. It has highlighted a need for communication. And we have broadcast today's events, and we did yesterday as well. And I think for people to know that your staff has suffered like the rest of us, and this 10% cut and so on in the budget, it's important for people to know that. And I wanted to salute Ben and the entire staff and whoever's listening to this, to know that they really did they made a difficult situation less difficult. And you should be applauded for that. That's the end. You can unmic me.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Miller.
With that, we have no additional requests for public comments for this particular agenda item.
Thank you, moderator. That concludes agenda item 19, and we can take it back to the, let's go ahead and open up agenda 18, Madam President, if you're okay with that, for the public comment.
Yes, please.
Moderator.
Fantastic. Dylan Stan, your microphone has been unmuted.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, loud, clear.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you allowing us to go back and open that up. So my name is Dylan Stan, and I am from Net of Knowledge, and I'm a continuing education provider with the California Acupuncture Board. I would like to add to Lauren Brown's comment about the distancing education fees, and we've actually submitted a letter to the board This was organized by eLotus, Healthy Seminars, Net of Knowledge, which was formerly Eastern Currents Learning, and also the Pacific College of Health and Science. We see a grave concern, not in the fee increase in general, but in one very particular aspect of it, which is the expiration of distance education courses. This is going to lead to a variety of really significant impacts to the industry, to teachers, to practitioners in general. And I just want to say that it's not about us as businesses. We're going to be able to adapt, but the corner that we're put in and what we're going to have to do as a result of it is going to hurt the industry. It's going to hurt teachers. It's going to hurt practitioners in very particular ways. So, like I said, it's not about us as businesses. We're going to adapt. So I actually have a letter that we've submitted, and I'm going to read the beginning of it, if that's okay. So, the very particular ways that it's going to impact people is, for example, there's a $10 per hour renewal fee that's going to be required for all of these courses. And as you know, eLotus, Healthy Seminars, Net of Knowledge, we've all amassed libraries over the years of our own distance education courses, valuable courses. And our hours amount to between 900 to 3,000 hours between us, individually. This is going to be yearly fees of $9,000 to $30,000 for distance education courses alone. It's just unrealistic. It's just not feasible. So we and many other providers will be forced to immediately retire hundreds of valuable courses as a result of this. And this is going to mean real financial consequences to the livelihood of many teachers and practitioners who depend on selling distance education courses to earn supplementary income, especially during the pandemic when many clinics are either closed or at reduced capacity. It will result in a narrowing of the acupuncture and TCM field of education in general. Not only will practitioners have fewer choices in the long run, but the wealth of knowledge that is the lifeblood of this industry will be stifled. And we also feel that smaller providers will not be able to afford the fees, and as a result will not have the opportunity to establish themselves. Now, I just want to say that we also welcome the CE provider fees increase in 2021, and we understand that it's a needed change. For years, we ourselves have questioned the sustainability of a CE program that does not have application.
Time had been reached. With that, we have no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please.
Moderator, I believe there was a comment for one more question. Mr. Miller was addressing both the previous and the past. Can we just give him 1 second to see if he still wants this, so we don't have to come back to this item?
Yes, sir. Neil, your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ben. I have two quick comments. One is my public comment is on here. We announce ourselves who we are, and we write our names here. And I think it's important, whether we're on these Zoom meetings or whether when we get back in person, that the minutes of the meeting reflect who was here and who said what. Dylan just spoke. I don't know who he is. I agree with what he says. CalAtma has a similar issue with our library of webinars that we have been producing this year. We think that it's valuable information for somebody who goes online and looks at the minutes of the meeting and sees who said what. For instance, we have 17 different schools in California, but only Ron Zeidman from Five Branches and Jock from Emperors and PCOM were there yesterday. So I think it's important that the consumers see that 14 schools didn't participate. And we have 20 different associations, but only CalAtma was here yesterday. At least we're the only ones who spoke. And it's important for the consumers to know who's coming to this meeting. And I think that it would really help the communication going forward for the board. I think that the board does a great job with what they're doing, but there's room for improvement. And one of the ways to improve is to look at communication. And you look at some of the issues that are on the agenda today, and there are acupuncturists who are acting surprised, like the fee is going up. Oh my God, what happened? whereas CalAtma has been reporting this for the last couple of years. We have been here at the meeting, as are some of the schools that are here. And, for 20 associations, no one's getting the message. And if there's 13,000 acupuncturists, only 2,000 of those belong to an organization, and those organizations aren't showing up. So that's 11,000 people that aren't really getting the message. And CalAtma is trying to change that by reproducing the meetings online, live, and we are trying to get the minutes and write our own minutes of the meeting based on who said what. That is of real value that we could streamline for the profession to enhance the board's communication to us and for us, meaning all of the stakeholders, the schools, the students, the practitioners, to see who's representing us with the regulatory agency, and to understand the changes that the regulatory agency is going through and how it affects us and the consumers. So I think it's important that you write down who said what. We announce ourselves, we take the time to show up, and I think that's valuable information for the public to be able to hear. And I echo the previous comments about education, that we are having a similar issue, and we have been discussing it on our continuing education academic committee. Thank you for giving me this extra time.
With that, there are no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please.
Feature has been closed.
Madam President, this is Fred from DCA Legal. I just want to make a quick point about the identification of the speaker. By law, each speaker is not required to be identified, and they don't need to identify themselves to the board.
Thank you for clarification. So, Ben, do you have anything to add, or we will move to the next item?
I'm ready to move to the enforcement report, Madam President.
Excellent. Let's move to the item 20, enforcement report. Mr. Boudier, please.
Thank you. If members and stakeholders will please turn to item 21. On the first page, we have the complaints and convictions of arrests. A total of, and this is for the period of July 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2020, also known as quarter one of our fiscal year. We received 11 complaints for unprofessional conduct, 8 for unlicensed or unregistered status, 10 criminal convictions, 2 from applicants and 8 from licensees, and then 1 for sexual misconduct, 2 for fraud, 5 for non-jurisdictional, 5 for incompetence, 2 for unsafe or unsanitary conditions, and none for other or substance abusing or disciplined by another state agency. And I'm going to stop reading all the numbers as the chart is clearly showing that for the next few charts as well. But I will point out some things that do stand out. What we do see is we do have had a drop in the number of complaints coming in the table below, and we'll discuss that a little further on the next page. In terms of investigations, you see the number that we initiated in the last quarter, currently pending as well as closed. And I'm going to continue through all the charts and then ask for questions or comments afterwards. If we move to the second page, we have our performance measures, and this is what we report annually. And so it's a little more challenging to have a comparison just from this graph, although you do see last fiscal year's to date figures, but we only have quarter one so far. So what we have is total complaints received in quarter one was 33, total convictions and arrests received was 10, and so a total of 43. In the cycle intake time, our target is 10 days. Last year's average was 4.3, but it has gone up to 5.0. Again, addressing the pandemic and also the furloughs. We do have less time to address these investigations and issues and complaints, but we are managing to address that within the 10-day time still. Performance measure 3 is the cycle time, average number of days to complete. This has dropped from 189 days, and the target is 200 here, to 168 for the moment. And you can take a look at the average number of the timeframes for our investigations. And at the moment, we have no investigation that's taking over 3 years, although we have had some of those in the past, and those deal with some of our more nuanced cases, especially if we're looking at, for example, transcript fraud. If we need to speak with other agencies, let alone other countries' agencies, that can take some time. And especially with the COVID situation now, we may anticipate seeing increased times for those kinds of violations as communication is a little slower across boundaries right now. Moving on, we have the citations, 9 issued last quarter. Average days to close has increased. Our transmittal on the next page to the Attorney General, the volume of cases last year was 8, this year so far 6. Total cycle time has increased, exceeding the target of 540 days to 702. We are watching for this and seeing if there's new trends and trying to address the backlog as it's coming in. We are hopeful that with our enforcement analyst coming in January, that these will start to go down in the coming year. And then you can take a look at the AG's report for AG cases initiated for, again, I won't go through this, but please question or comment on anything that may stand out. This is just within normal, reasonable, I should say historic, although we have seen a drop in accusations filed from 15 to 2, but again, it's just the first quarter, not the whole year. Total orders aging, final decision, just a little percentage of those time spans there. And we only had one PC 23, Penal Code 23 order issued to stop a licensee from practicing for criminal reasons or threat to the public. That concludes my report. Any questions from the board?
Yes, thank you, Ben.
Certainly.
So I have a question on the first page.
Yes.
And there was a number for unregistered number. And I look back, that number in August was only 2. And in June was only 5. So now it's 8. So what's the issue here?
It just happens to be this quarter's numbers in terms of understanding what's going on. What the cause is, we will be looking for that to see if it'll be a trend as we move into the upcoming quarters. But it's a little too challenging to determine just at the moment. And also, I will touch base with my enforcement coordinator and see how much we can share as these are opened complaints, so therefore still confidential.
I see. So is maybe this is another question is, do we have an increase the not licensed acupuncturist being practiced? I'm just kind of like not sure, how this means. They practice acupuncture?
So these are people claiming to be acupuncturists or claiming to hold an acupuncture license or using an acupuncture license in their so-called clinic. What we've seen is massage parlors using acupuncture licenses as for the ability to establish that location. And in some of the cases that have closed, what we see is it becomes a place of prostitution. And so it comes in on that. And this is part of the drive for the board seeking the wall license, so that we have current licenses that each location is got the expiration date showing that they are in constant communication with the board on their ability to practice in that location.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Ben, this is Kidman Chen. I had a question.
Please.
Looks like the unprofessional conduct is every quarter we have. You look at the by character, and those is things. Is it the licensee doesn't understand, or they are unknown with the violation? There's should all have a more emphasis on this regulation, because misleading advertising. and fictitious name. All these things we can either the board had send out a newsletter each quarter, or ask the school or education provider had some kind of course to make this licensee aware those unprofessional conduct, because it looks like every quarter we had this kind of professional conduct as a never can solve, never can go down or something. And I think the board or the work with school and education provider to stress on that, because those professional conduct looks like to be the licensee is not aware or they don't care or whatever. Okay, so we probably need to emphasize on.
Yes, we'll continue to look at that to see if there's a trend. And we have started putting out last year we were able to put the top 10 enforcement violations, and we're looking at these to try to bring to the public's and stakeholders and members' attention as to what's happening. So I appreciate your question. We will continue to look at this. If we're looking to create coursework on this, the board can consider creating a continuing education course on its laws and regs. Additionally, the board does test on its laws in the licensing exam. So we can look at perhaps working with associations in the coming years on and meeting with them to discuss these violations and how they can create continuing education courses for their members. There is this, we do see this happening right now. Marilyn Allen does work in this field as well, based on the enforcement activities. So the profession is aware of it, and we definitely would like to partner more with them to create greater communication and awareness as to these violations.
You look at it, and you look at the second table, and the 10, the most highest number on professional conduct 63, and the fourth is 46, and then and then negative 33, and all this make is over 100, more than 100, 130 something cases. So I think, even though some is serious, some is current, but add up the number so high on.
Yes, and if I understand, unprofessional conduct can catch a lot of the smaller things. Christine, would you be able to shed any light on the category unprofessional conduct? I know you're policy coordinator now, but you do have great experience in enforcement.
Yeah, sure. Unprofessional conduct includes a lot of various things. If you refer to the section 4955 of the BMP code, it's like our largest enforcement section, and it lists different things. Anytime there is a violation of the Acupuncture Licensure Act, it's a violation of unprofessional conduct. It also covers when there is a failure to notify the board of any false or assumed name. If there's a local ordinance violation, just all different various things, false, misleading advertising. There is a separate category for alcohol use, but that's also considered unprofessional conduct. And then, we have the unlicensed, unregistered. That's a separate category, but again, yeah, everything can be classified as unprofessional conduct as well. And so, if there's not another category that fits it, then it's going to be classified as unprofessional conduct. And I know that Cricket, our enforcement coordinator, she has some of those subcategories listed there in the report.
Thank you kindly, Christine. Yes, and if members, she's referring to the first chart on the first page under unprofessional conduct. You'll see those are just 5 examples. So fictitious name does come. Continuing education provider violations, right? They're not keeping the records for 4 years. They're not noting on their certificates to licensees that they have to keep their records for 4 years. We're seeing a lot of increases in these kinds of violations as well. So it's not just with licensees. And it is more of a catch-all, or how should I say, it starts there with a violation. Any additional questions, Member Chan?
Oh, I'm fine.
Thank you. Other board members? Seeing none. Up, Mr. Kim.
Yes. So its enforcement activity is down, I think, due to the pandemic. Then
I'm sorry, Mr. Kim, I didn't hear the question.
okay. So due to this pandemic, the enforcement activities and also the complaints have been reduced, or does it help the board's financial status?
It reduces the incoming workload. We are still working through this. And another example, actually, in regards to like unprofessional conduct, would be, for example, with us mailing out these notices to licensees, schools, well, licensees specifically here, and we get the returned mail. They're supposed to know, and then we check our system, and their address shows that they've had that address and hasn't changed. Technically or legally, they're required to notify the board within 30 days. So failing to update their address is one of these unprofessional conducts. And so we've gotten a number of returned mail from all these notices that have been going out to inform of the wall license and of the fee changes. And so we have to open investigations or desk investigations on these because these are violations of our code. So yes, we do see a drop in perhaps treatment or professional conduct in terms of office settings and relation with how to relate with patients. But we might be seeing an increase. We haven't, these are starting to come in now, so we'll be logging them, and we may see in the next quarter what these numbers are. But we'll most likely be in Q3. So perhaps in June is when we'll be able to see how those address changes affect this number, and I would anticipate a rise there.
Because as far as I remember, I think if there's complaints, then board has to respond using the investigation unit to go and investigate, and if there is a violation, then it has to go with the Attorney General's office, right? And then it costs money for the board to pay for all these activities.
Correct, it does, yes. And actually, thank you for mentioning the cost with the Attorney General, the Department of Justice. What was noted in the 2019 meeting where we discussed the board's fees is that fee study did not include the increase of DOJ costs, Department of Justice costs. So again, that's going back to Kipman's budget questions, why you're seeing that fund still decreasing, that reserve fund still decreasing, because there have been extra costs that have been put in place since that fee study was conducted. And yes, this would cost. Now, for the address changes, that doesn't require the Attorney General's participation. Things of that nature can be done as a desk investigation by our analysts. So what you do see then is an increase in workload for these citation level items as opposed to the disciplinary items that get referred to the AG, which is what we've seen a drop in.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification.
Certainly. Any other questions from board members? Seeing none.
I see Dr. Chen Ben.
Apologies. It was at the bottom of my list. Thank you. Dr. Chen, please.
Thank you, Ms. Padilla, and thank you for see my hand, Dr. my hand. So I just have one point. When I work as association leader before, I see the value of association to give their members the education about laws, regulations, medical ethics constantly. I hope I encourage all the association or educator, the CE provider will enhance this part of the information to prevent this medicine acupuncture. Actually, the important value of this medicine is our concept is preventative. So if we can do better, if the stakeholders can be more informed and to prevent the violation, that will help everybody. Help. This is not only double win, it's triple win, and everybody win, win-win. And the first of all is protect the consumer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen.
Thank you.
Any other members? Dr. Chen, I still see your hand up. Did you have another comment? Nope. Okay. Yeah. Madam President, that concludes my report.
Yes. Should we open up to the public?
Certainly.
Thank you. Moderator, will you please open up to the public?
This is the moderator, and I have opened the public comment feature. If you would like to make a public comment, please submit "I would like to make a comment" and submit to all panelists. You will be provided 3 minutes and given a 30-second reminder. With that, first up, we have an individual identified as Neil Miller. Your microphone has been unmuted.
My name is Neil Miller, representing CalAtma. I would like to reflect the minutes to reflect that. 3 minutes is not adequate time to really discuss this big issue. As the board knows, of those people who have been here, especially Ben, who's been here longer than any of the actual members of the board, I have been asking for this section, unprofessional conduct and enforcement, to be to increase the communication between the board and us. The board has done a great job under Ben's leadership. You could see that the level of sexual misconduct is less, that they're resolving these issues much better. So Ben's comment about working with school, working with associations, working with schools. CalAtma is here all the time. I personally have been here for 30 years, and I continue to ask you to do certain things. Finally, maybe it's going to come to light. The idea of the massage parlors, you brought it up, so I'll comment on it. I have been talking to you about Asian massage and the term Asian massage and how problematic it is. I have asked this board, the previous board, and the previous board, going back 14 years, even before there was Google, to look up Asian massage. And all you see are massage parlors and sexual things. And if you Google Sacramento acupuncture Asian massage, you get the same thing. And if you go to San Jose or LA or San Francisco and you type in Asian massage acupuncture, you get the same thing, massage parlors. So I think that it's really incumbent about the board to make a strong effort to meet with us and the legislature to change this archaic term. 75% of the students today are women. And it is women who are coming to our association and saying, when are you going to change this? When are we going to use medical terminology instead of this Asian massage thing that is so problematic? Lastly, Dr. Young Ping, when she was part of CalAtma, brought it to the attention of the previous acupuncture board, and now she's bringing it to this board. I even have it in my notes to bring that up today. That continuing education on the laws and regulations and ethics is really important. Cal ATMA is continuing the work that
30 seconds.
Dr. Youngping started with Cal ATMA. We look forward to working with the board, and we look forward to the board communicating with all associations and with the practitioners, because we can stop these issues. This enforcement stuff is something that is preventable. All of it. Everything on here is preventable. And it really comes down to communication. Thank you.
At this time, we have received no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please.
Feature has been closed.
So, Ben, shall we move on to the next agenda item, 21st?
Yes, that
Licensing.
concludes Enforce, and Jay is ready to present.
Jay, please.
Jay, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Now we
Yes.
do.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, board members. Please turn to tab 21 and you'll find the licensing report there, and that's what I'm going to report on right now. So to start with, I'm going to go over the licensing statistics in the licensing report. So first, I'd like to report that the total active licenses are 12,248. And just to give some perspective, in 1819, the total licenses were 13,353. And in fiscal year 1920, the total licenses were 12,247. And now we're at 12,248. So licensure, is fairly stable for the field at that level. It's not growing or particularly shrinking too fast. I'd also like to point out that the active licenses include the inactive and delinquent. And so we do have 2,286 inactive licensees currently, and many of these are out of state. Also, we have 1,106 delinquent licensees. So if you subtract that number from the active licenses, actively practicing with a license are 8,856 licensees. In terms of cancellations for quarter 1, there was 50. Initial license applications that were approved were 64. Initial license applications that were denied were 0. And the reason for that number is by the time they're at the point of their initial licensure, the only thing that would prevent them from completing their license at that point, if they've passed the exam and done that, would be if there was something serious on their background, some kind of enforcement issue. And so that it doesn't come up that often, particularly at that point. So we had none at that point. Total license renewals for the first quarter were 1,641. In terms of continuing education report, fiscal year quarter 2021, CE provider applications that were approved, new applications were approved, were 17 for quarter 1. A number of provider applications that were desired were 0. Total course applications received were 781. The number of course applications that were approved of that 781 were 718. And a number of those denials, the reason for denials are usually submission timelines. That's one of the most common reasons for that, or an inability to address any kind of feedback from the staff in a timely manner. So the total number of course denials was 63 out of that. Our total number of CE providers is 590. And if we look at our total number of providers, that actually allowed one CE provider for every 15 licensees if we're using the 8,856 active licensees as a total. Moving on to the examination report, the exam applications received in quarter 1 were 105. Initial exam applications approved and closed were 79. First-time test takers that took the test in quarter 1 were 62. Retake testers in first quarter were 21, so total exam testers were 83. And then moving on to educational and training programs. This is our training program approvals. In Q1, we received no applications for application of board approval of curriculum. And so there was no incomplete applications. There were 2 applications approved in that period that were held over from the previous quarter. And there was also 2 programs that lost approval. The 2 ones that lost approval, this was due to their failure to achieve accreditation from the Accreditation Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, which requires that programs reach at least pre-accreditation standard or pre-candidacy standard within a period of 3 years. And so both of those programs were past that deadline and are working for other means of addressing that. And in terms of acupuncture tutorial programs, in Q1, there were 4 new applications received. There was 1 new program approved, 1 program completed. There was 13 programs terminated or abandoned. And one reason the number was high for this, there was the tutorial desk did a careful inventory of the responses that were in terms of the program, and all these programs were out of the criteria where they had not renewed their program and had not submitted quarterly reports for at least 2 quarters since they last had paid for the program. And so that resulted in a fair number of either terminated or abandoned programs. Now, those once abandoned, they can reach back out to the board and they don't lose the prior credit, but they do have to bring themselves whole and reapply for the program. So their total approved tutorial programs are 34. And then I'd like to go into just talk a little bit about the exam and the exam results. Exams results were given at the last board meeting for the 1/20 through 6/30, and those are available on our website. New results will be available for July 1st through the end of the year, early in January, mid-January in that line. And then also I'd like to speak in general about the exam and the occupational analysis. Just to let everybody know, the board has been meeting with the Office of Professional Exam Services to provide the planning for the new occupational analysis. And we'd just really like to underline to all our stakeholders and anybody listening that participation in the occupational analysis is very, very important for determining what's going to happen in the exam content. And by having a really high number of participants, we're going to get much better data. If we have low participants, it's usually people that have a certain kind of interest in a certain kind of training, and it can skew the results. We're really, really looking to message this and get that out. One of the things is the board is going to provide some continuing education units for participants who complete the study. And we'll keep messaging this. We'll be doing some mailings. We'll be doing some emailings, and keep working on the communication, as Mr. Miller keeps mentioning. We'd really like all the professional associations to reach out, all the training programs, anybody listening. Let's get this high participation in our occupation analysis. And with that, I conclude my licensing report.
Thank you, Jay. Any questions from the board members?
So I have one. We used to report the schools, right? The passing rate, all those information. So we not report that, or this can be seen online. Where do we look for that information, Jay?
Amy, that's what I was referring to in my last comments. We reported the last pass rates for the first of the year through June fiscal year 1920, and then we'll have new results out after December 31st. So I will report those at the next board meeting, but once they've been reported, they go up online. Now, we're not going to wait to post those results. They'll go up as soon as we have them, but I will report them actually at the next board meeting. So really, there was nothing new to report, and it is available online. If you look under Students Approved Training Program, well, let me find the path. It's definitely available online. I don't want to give you a wrong pathway in terms of where to find those. Let's see. It's under exam statistics is actually where it was. So if you go under, let's see. Sorry.
Well, Jay is looking for that just to confirm.
Yeah,
It's
thank
a
you, Ben.
semi-annual reporting on the exam statistics. And we just happen to be 2 weeks away from the end of this reporting. So that's why it won't be coming out until next quarter to the board.
Thank you.
Why don't you guys go ahead and move on, and I will announce that at another time in the meeting because I'm kind of flipping around here, and it'll take me a minute to get it to you. Thank you. Bye.
Sure. Member Kim?
Yes, I have a question regarding this educational and training program. How many of the California-based schools, acupuncture schools, in active right now?
I believe roughly. Go ahead.
Was the question how many do we have that are approved acupuncture and educational training programs? Is that what the
in California?
In California, I don't have that number right off the top of my head. I know that there's 34 total programs approved. I think we're roughly around 17, something like that in California. I don't want to throw out a number that, you know, it's in that range. I think it may be in the 20 range. I can get those numbers to you and provide those at the next reporting.
And then are they supervised or oversighted by the ACOM? All of them?
All our programs are required to have a relationship with ACOM. They at least have to be in the process of working towards accreditation, and then within 3 years reach a pre-accreditation status. Currently, right now, I think there's only 3 programs that are not fully accredited that are in the process of seeking their final accreditation from ACOM.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is, you know, I see the license, active license numbers are decreasing. Personally, I've seen a lot of old-timers retiring, especially in this pandemic. It's not just for acupuncture professionals. All the medical professionals who've been practicing at their late like 50s, 60s, and even 70s, they're retiring because of this pandemic. And you know, like I mentioned yesterday, I do see more on the need for the care for those patients who are not getting enough care by this other medical professions. So I'm concerned the decreasing in the acupuncture licensee numbers. So I'm pretty sure that California Acupuncture Board is trying to work with the schools, but also I do see the changes in online education. You know, it's not just a temporary, clinical training waiver issue. It's a long-term issue because most of the schools, even Harvard, Stanford, you know, you name all these big schools, they are going into online classes. So I do see the trend that we might have to look into that there are actually more schools are offering online program, and maybe it will contribute to the more enrollment for the new license, you know, future licenses. So I just you know, want to make a comment on this. Thank you.
And Dr. Kim, you do bring up a good point. You know, since the Acupuncture Practice Act was active in the late 70s, early 80s, many acupuncturists are getting to the age of retirement, and that, you know, part of that trend is what moved the board to seek you know, regulatory process to allow licensees to retire and not just have to cancel out their license. It's definitely another quality that the profession's been around long enough that a number of providers are retiring, and there was in the early 2000s, there was a real peak of, licensees and, increases, but it's definitely slowing down and it's stabilized back to kind of the numbers that I gave, that the 1819 license count was 13,353. The 1920 was 12,247. So that's about a 100 decrease. Since the fiscal year end, we've increased by 1. So for the last quarter, we're stabilized. But yeah, I think you make good points.
And to follow up with your question, Member Kim, I counted 16 California schools that were approved on our website.
Yeah, and I'm hearing the new changes in the medical community, which was affected by this pandemic. For example, not many people go to their physical therapy anymore to risk their infection risk, or other even regular doctor's visits, and those health professions also suffer. But I do believe that there is a bigger demand for acupuncture profession, for those cares that was been missing by other healthcare professions. So maybe it's just my speculation, but other health professional will maybe try to acquire the acupuncture license so that they can provide varieties of services. Maybe there will be different environment maybe in the future. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. So
I have one more thing to say, Amy, if I could do that. I found some additional information. For examination statistics, if you go to our homepage and you look under the Students tab and you click on that, and then you click on the sublink examination, it'll take you to a number of different topics. And then the second to the last topic is statistics. And so you can access them there. And then also kind of hearing the board members' need for some more information in the school. Outside of the examination report, we can include the current, just as a static number of the current number of approved training programs, both in California and out of state. So we'll have those for you guys readily. So I'll make sure that that gets included in our next reporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Any other comments from the board members? If not, then shall we open up to the public?
Please.
Yeah, moderator, would you please open up to the public, please?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to make a public comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and send to all panelists. All comments will be answered in the order they are received. First up, we have an individual identified as Neil Miller. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you, Neil Miller from Cal Atma. Yeah, we have 3 minutes here to make public comment. It would be advantageous if sometimes there was public comment where there was discussion, or if someone from the public has a question. So I have a comment and a couple of quick questions. My question: are there any unusual pass rates? Statistically, have we noticed in the last several years any trends amongst any particular schools or any particular programs, whether it was an English program, a Chinese program, a Korean program? Have we seen any statistical anomalies that would raise a red flag? I've brought this issue up before, that there seems to be a lot of discussion on the street about a lot of certain schools, certain anomalies regarding the exam. I've heard from students about other students transferring So I was wondering, Jay, if you know now or in the future, if we can look at over the last couple of years and into this year and next year, if there are any major trends, if there's some school that was operating at 70% pass rate and suddenly they're at 95% pass rate, but not all of the schools' programs are on pass rate. I'd like to address that if there are any unusual pass rates. I also want to know about ACOM. ACOM is accrediting the schools, and I want to know if there's any process of evaluation of how, what the change is since ACOM is now accrediting the various schools. We've gotten a lot of complaints lately from not only from California, but people have reached out to us from around the country with some problems related to, I should briefly say, the Me Too movement, where there have been a lot of violations against a number of women, of young students at a number of schools who have complained to ACOM, and we are told that this has fallen on deaf ears. So that's one issue, and we also just wanted to know how ACOM is doing. Jay, do you see the difference? Do you see that it's better, it's worse? There are more problems, are there complaints? Lastly, I really, again, want to thank Jay for listening. I personally have been asking, and CalAtma has been asking since we've been in existence for 2 years, to really promote this occupational analysis, that instead of just sending it out to a small group of acupuncturists, that you send it out to everybody. And last year, we asked the acupuncture board to provide CEs for this and to send it out to everybody, whether it was CalAtma's recommendation or it was Jay's brilliance, but we're going in the same direction. So we really appreciate the continued education and sending this out to all practitioners, all stakeholders. Thank you.
And thank you for your public comment.
Next, we have an individual identified as Dylan Stan. Your microphone is being unmuted.
Hi there. I appreciate the opportunity that I recognize you're giving me because I didn't have the 30-second warning last time to wrap up my comments. So I'm just going to wrap up what I was saying before, and I understand that there's an additional agenda item for the new fees, in which case I will speak and add some new comments. So just to wrap up what I was saying before, I will say that we are completely okay with the new fee increases, and we completely understand that it is needed. The lack, however, of a separate system for renewals is both unrealistic and damaging to teachers, practitioners, and the industry. This is an urgent concern, and it will result in a sudden loss of education for the industry and financial losses for teachers and practitioners. So we urge the board to put our letter that we have sent out from eLotus, Net of Knowledge, Healthy Seminars, and Pacific College of Health and Science on the agenda for their next meeting. And we urge the board to come up with a separate bulk discount system for course renewals similar to the NCCAOM. And we believe that this is fully in line with the legislation. The board has full jurisdiction to implement this. We've reviewed thoroughly the new legislation, and I'll share with you in our next comment at that particular section how that will be possible. Thank you so much.
At this time, we have no additional requests for public comment. Before I close this feature, I will ask members of the public to please lower your hands. With that, Madam Chair, would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator.
You're welcome. Feature has been closed.
Yes. So, Ben, before we move to the next item, shall we take a 15 minutes break? I would suggest that.
Certainly.
Okay. So let's take a 15 minutes break, and board members, so we will resume at 11:15. How about that? 14 minutes. So we
Perfect.
resume at 11:15. Thank you.
Thank you, Board President.
So welcome back. Do we need to do a roll call, or are we okay?
let's go ahead and do the roll call just since no one can see our board members technically.
Okay. Christine, would you please take a roll call? Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Amy Matecki,
Present?
Kitman Chan,
Here.
Yang Ping Chen,
Here.
John Harabedian,
Here.
Francisco Kim,
I'm here.
Shudong Li,
Present.
Ruben Osorio,
I am here.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. We're all here.
Thank you, Christine. Let's move to the agenda item number 22, legislative report of 2020 and the legislative bills of interest to the board. Christine, and thank you. And I echoed with the public and the board members. Truly appreciate you have done tremendous work for the last few years, and thank you.
Thank you, President Matecki. Thank you for the kind words. So the topic that we're covering right now is the California legislation of interest, and these are just reviewing all of the bills that the board has reviewed for the past year in the 2019-2020 calendar year. Just providing a final recap or status update of each of the bills. Of all of the bills that were reviewed this past year, just 3 of them have been enacted into law. The rest of them you'll find did they fail to pass out to pass, and so you'll just see that noted on the rest of them. And so the 3 bills that did pass, we moved that up to the front of the report, and I'm just going to review those quickly here. So the first bill that becomes law January 1st, 2021 is AB 2113. And that relates to the initial licensure process for refugees, asylees, and special immigrant visa holders. And just to provide a quick summary, so the new law requires programs within the Department of Consumer Affairs to expedite and assist the initial licensure process for an applicant who supplies satisfactory evidence that they are a refugee, have been granted asylum, or have a special immigrant visa. And it also authorizes programs to adopt regulations as necessary to administer these provisions. So for the implementation plan, I wanted to just go over that of how we are going to implement this bill. We haven't really identified any regulations that are necessary other than we need to update the initial license application form, which that is being done right now. So that would require a regulatory change to put that form in regulation. And then also we're adding the question to our online interface that we have for applicants to apply for a license online. That's being added. So we have to go through the different system changes there. And then at that point, we're working with our Office of Information Services, and they are modifying the system to flag these applications so they can be moved up in the queue and be expedited. We've identified that this probably won't affect too many of our applicants. We already have a fairly quick turnaround time, but those are the things that we have to put in place prior to January 1st to implement this bill. And then moving on to the next bill, AB 3330, which is our fee bill. That is becoming effective, as we know, January 1st, 2021. And this has been, like we said, a long time coming. It raises all of our various fees. It sets new fees. And this is as a result of the independent fee study that was conducted last year. And it's necessary to avoid insolvency, as we know. And so there is a large implementation plan, a large task on all staff to carry this out. We do have to update our website, which we have identified all the areas of the website that need to be updated, and we'll be sending those soon. We are also working on updating all of our forms with the new fees. Also, there's some new sort of processes involved that we'll have to be updating with these forms. So that's going through. We're going to be starting that probably right after this board meeting. And that's been in the works as well. And we also have identified that we need to amend our regulations where the fees are incorporated by reg. Now, because the statute takes effect January 1st, those fees that are set in statute will become effective at the minimum level, the floor level right away. So thankfully, it's just been identified that we have to do a quick Section 100 rulemaking, and we worked on that and sent that over to our legal, and that has been sent over to Office of Administrative Law. And so I believe OAL has 30 days to look at that now. It may be longer based upon the pandemic, but hopefully those fees will get approved soon. But even if they don't, like I said, the statute sets those fees already January 1st. And then obviously there's some continuing education fees that, or processes related to the fees that need to be worked out in regulation later on. And then we're just also working on our, Jay's been working with the BizMod project and updating all the fees through that. And so a lot of staff are working on that, and that's our priority right now. And then going on to the next bill, which is Senate Bill 878. That actually has a more delayed effective date that becomes effective July 1st, 2021. And that law requires each licensing program within the Department of Consumer Affairs to prominently display on its website the current average time frame for processing initial and renewal license applications for each license it offers. So the implementation plan for that is the board doesn't really have to do much. It's more on the department taking on the steps to carry that out. And they've communicated that they are updating their open data portal, which is on DCA's website, to show each board's licensing process times to conform with the new law set by SB 878. So there's some time on that, and they're working on that. Again, that becomes effective July 1st, 2021. We have also included behind this memo all of the 3 bills that did get signed into law. So if you want to look through all that and all of the language, you can. Are there any questions on any of the laws that we have reviewed?
Thank you, Christine. So I have a question here. So early we heard from the public comment about the fees, and also, Ben and Kidman, they all been here for a long time, realize this type of the fee increase process is being since 2013, 2014. So my questions are here. Where do the stakeholders go with this fee increase? Because this is going to be in action January 1st next year. And how, some of the issues from the public mentioned about there is with education, continuing education provider, there is sounds like a humongous price increase. So where should the stakeholder, go from there? Is there anything maybe bank can help, or maybe our legal can help to address? Because the board member has been working very hard, try to catch up with all the year's work. So I'm just have the question, maybe other board member can chime it in. I know all the board members is being really try to on top of everything with working with the staff. You guys have been working very, very hard too. So where is this, fees increase now is coming into January 1st. And, today is December 18th. How the board is going to address this with the stakeholders. Ben, maybe Fred, you guys can, help to answer that, or other board members.
Yeah, I don't know if Ben's gonna, okay, here, I'll leave it to Ben to answer that.
Thank you, Christine. And Fred, please step in if this doesn't sound appropriate. But my understanding is that this is a law, and the law is made through the legislature, and therefore these stakeholders have brought their concerns and how the law is affecting them to the board's attention. The board is aware of that now, and these stakeholders should also be working with the legislators as well. So we are grateful that these stakeholders did bring their concerns to us. There is nothing we can do in terms of stopping the law at this point. That could be done in the next legislative session should these stakeholders be able to work with an author on this, and the board would weigh in on a bill if this was introduced in a bill as well. These stakeholders would also be welcome to, if they've sponsored a bill, come and present to the board again on the reasoning behind their how they see this unfolding. Being that this does directly affect the acupuncture board would be working with the legislator as well should this arise.
This is Fred, DCA Legal. I concur with what the executive officer has said. These fee increases have been approved by the legislature, and any type of changes to those fee increases may have to go through these legislative process.
Thank you, Ben and Fred. So, my question is, where would the stakeholders to know all those information? Because from what I learned, this has been ongoing for a while, right? So how would they initially, if they get connected or they know what's going on, so instead of this process, the bills get passed that take years. And now it's passed, and we're going to implement it in January 1st. So where would the stakeholders and maybe the association will start looking into it, or when should they start to work on this instead of the last minutes coming to the board, and which is the board members, there's nothing we can really do about it. So I see Jay, sorry.
Madam President, I mean, if it's, I think Mr. Boudet can maybe speak more details to that, but I believe that one of the ways to know about these bills is there is a website that is hosted by the legislature where the public can keep track of a certain bill and where it's at procedurally. Also, the board staff does bring up bills of interest to board meetings. And the public can take a look, can listen in and figure out which bills may be of interest that's going through the legislature. And it will be then incumbent upon the member of the public to contact that specific author to maybe provide comments and feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred.
Indeed, just to echo Fred's comments, that is the process. We, as a board, are very transparent in the bills that we are looking at and authoring or sponsoring or taking a position on. We have an email list available for all our stakeholders and members of the public to sign up for and be able to track our agendas, our board meetings, participate in these discussions. When we discussed the proposed statutory language for the fee increase, this was done at in the Bay Area at 5 branches University, in fact. And we also had sample regulation. There was no comments received on either of those. And it's a little challenging. The whole purpose of this is so that there is no surprise. Now, there definitely is, like, the legislative process changes or can change a bill, and that is why when the board takes a position, we report back if the bill language itself has changed, so that the board, if it changes the context of that bill, the board can take another position on it based on the new language. And we encourage our stakeholders to be participatory in this process. When I was this year attending all the hearings on first the trailer bill and now AB 3330, I did not hear other associations or CE providers comment during those hearings. I do not know how many CE providers are on our mailing list. So we do invite our stakeholders to participate in the process. We do try to provide everything that the board is doing. That is our goal. So there is a process for this, and people can participate.
Thank you, Ben, for the explanation. So I see there's a couple hands raised, and maybe Member Kim start first, and then Jay, thank you. Maybe you will help. Member Kim, are you going to talk? Okay, please.
Yes. Yeah. I've been a board member for 2 years now, and before that, I was a steering committee member for unifying the licenses association. And then part of the reason was, even the legislatures want to implement certain law changes, they need feedback, they need opinions from the experts and licenses. So board has to execute all these laws and regulations, but the missing parties here in the association. So now as a board member, I see from each point of view, I see the how it works is like other boards or other health professions. Board and then legislative and the licenses, including some of course from the consumers, but like the schools or the other regulatory, like accreditation agency, they come to the meeting, they put their input, but the licenses, they're all scattered. I see there are some complaints from the other continuing education providers. They never got a notification. They never show up or they never put an input on this process. So I think the missing part is the association. I believe, I hope maybe next year they can participate as a one association, go to the legislative process or the board meeting and input the professionals' opinion. That's what.
Thank you, Member Kim. So I just want to echo for what you said is, and also with Ben and Fred has mentioned, when those bills initially started discussed, and it would be much easier to bring their, view, the point of the view, their expertise on the floor then, for those hearings, instead of like now we have to implement it because this is a bylaw. So the next step, it could be they all together, or maybe, certain association, they say, they wanted to take on project. So I'm just to see this, could be, a good part of it for everybody to learn, to understand how the bills get passed. not at the last minute. So let me go to Jay first, and then Dr. Chen. I will get to you. Maybe Jay will bring us more information here. And thank you. Please, Jay.
Thank you, Dr. Mateki. And both Ben and Fred had made points that I was going to make, but I also wanted to add that the board has never done a fee increase and has never had a new license type. So this represents really, really significant change. And this work was the bills were signed into law in September of this year. So it's been a scramble to put this together in this short time to be able to implement, as of the first of the year. So, it has been a challenge to get communication out there and to figure out operating programs, as timely as it would be for everybody to be comfortable with. We did very, very extensive work on creating messaging to all our licensees, to the different stakeholder groups. I'll go through them: the licensees, community education providers, tutorial students, training programs. Separately, we mailed all those out, messaging these changes after they've been there. We've worked on our systems to have them available at this point. So it has been quite an effort of change for everybody. So we understand that. But after this goes through, I think we'll assimilate, and there can be a process that feeds back. But again, the law is the law, so we're moving forward as this is now. So that's what I had to add.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, I know board member has been working very hard, and we're really so grateful for the stakeholder has been coming in to work with the board. When we see this, especially this year, as I mentioned yesterday, it's really arrived on the unwelcome time. Everybody have such a hardship, and if anything board member can help and this board can do, we would absolutely to support and be part of this. So let me move to Dr. Chen, Member Chen, please. And
thank you, President Mateki.
Sure.
So I just want to point out to see how many letters we receive for complaining the fee increasing. From today, we heard 2 letters, right, from two organization or continuing education. It's not a, I'm not sure. So these are several group joined together, and I heard some association, some echo that, and some said the fee schedule, fee increasing is reasonable, and problem is this year because the pandemic caused a lot of difficulty for licensed acupuncturists. So ask for postpone. I don't know if the board has authority to consider postponed. That's one question. And the 2 is for the future, if the fee increasing is reasonable or not. So I hope encourage the stakeholder come to the meeting, to the hearing, pay more attention, not at the last minute. Okay, it's difficult. So I echo the board member and the CEO and Mr. Badier. So also we want to see, is this just a few group or association, or it's for the big picture? Is the fee schedule reasonable for all the stakeholders? So as I understand, the fee schedule, the fee increasing based on the sunset review in 2018. So I'm new to the board, so I did some study, and I read 2018 sunset review. The senator was criticizing the board. The budget is a negative balance. So we can see from today's But the EO's budget report, the months of revenue is decreasing every year. So if the board does not have enough money, probably the board cannot operate. And the fee increasing is not from somebody's mind, not from board member. I came up later, so that problem started actually from the senators' sunset review. So it's way back 2018, and the problem has been since 2014, 2015. I read the document that said that. So the board has been, for 6 years, the income is less than the expenditure. So how can anything like if clinic or school, nobody can run the business under that condition. And as I came to this profession, I know the fee has never changed. So the fee changing is take the advice, suggestion from the third party, Eo Badia mentioned. So it's a third party's research. So it's not from anybody's mind. So I want to share the stakeholder a little bit of this background. So maybe we can do something to if the law enforcement costs board money, and I encourage association do this part of the job to avoid, to prevent, to reduce the cases. Maybe can reduce the cost of the board functioning, something like that. So it's like a system work. Okay, that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chen. Is Jay, do you want to say something? I see your hand is raised. Okay, thank you. So Ben or Fred, you guys have any other you want to add? Or any other board members want chimed in?
No, Madam President, I don't have any further comments on the topic.
Thank you.
Same here, Madam President.
Thank you. So Christine, please continue. Oh, do we need to open up to the public or should we finish this item?
Madam President, that'll be up to your discretion if you want to allow for public comments now or wait until the entire item is completed in terms of board discussion and then opening up to the public.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's finish this item first and then we will open up to the public. And thank you, Fred. So Christine, would you please? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. My report is complete. I'm not going to go through all the different bills. The rest of the bills, it's the same status for each one. It did fail to pass, and they have failed to become law. So that's it for me. I don't know if you have any further discussion. I did want to point out with regards to new fees, we do have a separate agenda item where we will go more in depth on the new fees, where we even have a table showing all of the new fees and the fees set by the new law. That's item 25. So I don't know if public comment, if they want to take it up now, they can, or later on and for item 25.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And also I saw there are bills was, status as a dead, like the AB 778, AB 888. So all those bills, and also there are some other bills with such as like AB 1665. Just for the education part, maybe Fred, you can help us. Is that those bill means dead? Is this can be reactivated, or can be is this is the stakeholders need to look into it, or how this worked once the bill is dead, will be reintroduced or not?
Madam President, unfortunately, I'm not exactly knowledgeable on issues of the legislative process. I may have to look into that and get back to you.
I can take that. I can take that question, President Mateki.
Oh, sure.
So it would be up to the legislature. The legislators, the assemblymen and senators, if they want to reintroduce a new bill during the new legislative calendar, and reintroduce the same policy, the same law changes. But at this point, these bills are dead, and I don't believe they can be resurrected. They would have to be introduced as new bills in the next legislative calendar.
Thank you. So that means that the stakeholders can work with the legislatures. Maybe that's another way they can look at, correct?
That is correct. And I did want to point out a very useful tool. It's a website. It's leginfo.ca.gov, I believe it is. And it does have a listing of all of the bills. Like if you do a bill search and you bring up the new calendar, it shows all of the bills that are already have been introduced. And you can subscribe and track bills. And there's an open portal to submit, position letters. It's very useful and it's open to the public. And so stakeholders can get involved that way as well.
Madam President, if I may also point out, and Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that on Ledge Info, you can also have it notify you when any bill comes up with specific keywords that you determine as the user. So, for example, we have our system set up so that anytime acupuncture comes up or needles comes up, we are made aware of that. And I highly urge our stakeholders to use that feature as well.
Yeah, you're correct, Ben. That is a feature. It's very useful.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's open up to the public. Moderator, would you please help to facilitate the public? Thank you.
Absolutely. At the direction of the board, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to make a public comment in regards to this agenda item, please type "I would like to make a public comment" and send to all panelists. You will be provided 3 minutes and given a 30-second warning. With that, our first request for public comment comes from Hongmei Lee. Your microphone has been unmuted. Hongmei, you are unmuted.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Hongmei Lee from California Acupuncture United Association. My question is, Acupuncture Board has been increased the fee. We know it's significant change. We know beer got passed for 1 year. We totally understand. However, during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, whether the fee could be postponed to next year. Second, our acupuncture license will be changed, and because the fee increased. Whether the California Acupuncture Board make a better template which can, follow MDs or even PT, physical therapists or lawyers, their license to have a better template as an acupuncture business card. Thank you.
Madam President, I can address the card aspect if you'd like.
Sure, please.
Thank you. This is a strategic plan item for the board to increase the quality of the pocket license for licensees. And it is in the works. What we need to do is completely transition to this new system so that we can interface more effectively with third-party vendors that we would need to use to print out the licenses on these plastic cards. So we would need to use a third-party vendor, and we would have to have our systems up to date to do that. We are hopeful that after we move past our first, if not second year of maintenance and operations, but sooner the better, we would be able to start doing this. And at the moment, we're on track to do it before the current strategic plan ends. So we are hopeful that we will accomplish that. In regards to the first question by the commenter, in terms of a stay on the fees or a postponement, I cannot advise the board to support something like this. I don't know the mechanism by which the board would initiate something like this, but the board would be insolvent without these fee increases. So there would be no acupuncture license technically without the board. Now the board may turn into a bureau or something like that, but everything that we've been working on would be incredibly affected. We understand everybody is hurting right now. The fee increase for the licensure is roughly $8 a month for the 2-year period. It totals $175 increase from the $325 to the $500. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the moderator. Would you like me to proceed?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Our next public comment comes from Neil Miller. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Good afternoon. My name is Neil Miller, representing CalAtma. CalAtma has been at all of these meetings, and before CalAtma, I was at all these meetings. I personally have supported the fee increase, and CalAtma is on record for the last several years supporting the fee increase related to the license as well as the continuing education, because we understand the parameters for these 30 years that you've gone on without a fee increase. I've been here for these 30 years. I know you need the money. I know you need the increase. We support this wholeheartedly. The bill has passed. However, we are extremely, extremely upset because this wall license stuff was not done. It was not noticed properly. It was not transparent. It was added to the bill. It was not discussed in open forum. This was part of a regulatory package that was added. For whatever reason, this was not transparent at all. Where is this? And the reason that you had added this wall license, you've brought it up in terms of the Asian massage and the problems that you have. So my question earlier was, what is this that I wanted to ask is, what is the statistical data that you need to change the wall license, that you're going to charge every acupuncturist an extra $50 every 2 years? Where's the statistical data? Well, you gave it to us today. You showed us during enforcement what is the data on the violations. So for less than 20 violations in relationship to renting out your office or giving out your license, you are now going to charge every acupuncturist $50 that you've added after the last meeting in August. This was not something that we have discussed for 13 years or the last several years. This was added. This is totally inappropriate. We are meeting with the governor's office. We are going to protest this. We are asking all acupuncturists, you can contact CalAtma. We will be having, we believe that this wall license is unnecessary. Mr. Harbedian, who is an attorney, he doesn't have to update his license anymore. This is a poor way to handle this problem. If you have less than 20 people who are violating this law, then you charge them $10,000, $5,000. You take away their license. That's what enforcement. That's what enforcement should do. I have been discussing this issue with you for years about people using their license for prostitution. This should have been resolved. This is a problem that the acupuncture board can find a solution for. We will be meeting with the governor's office. Lastly, you only need a pocket license to practice. So if I put my pocket license on the wall with a thumbnail, I should be legal. And are you going to enforce this? Are you going to go and if If all of us protest and say, we're not going to pay.
Time had been reached. Next, we have an individual identified as Dylan Stan. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Hi there, thank you. I actually thought I would save this for agenda item 25, but it's very relevant here. Just quickly to Ben Bodea and Fred Chan Yu, thank you for your comments, and I know that you have the best interest of the industry in the field at mind. I would respectfully disagree that this is in the hands of the legislature, and I will share why in a moment. And to Yong Ping Chen, I just want to reiterate that we believe that the fees are absolutely needed for continuing education. We want to pay the new fees to support the board. We are commenting only on one specific point, which is the lack of a renewal fee system for already approved distance education courses. We have no challenge to the new course application fees and any of the other provider fees. We believe those are fair. So if all previously approved courses need to be reapproved for the full price every year, then hundreds of courses will be lost. But there is good news. I would like to share that Net of Knowledge, Pacific College of Health and Science, Healthy Seminars, and eLotus have all reviewed the California Business and Professions Code Section 4970, and we strongly believe that the Acupuncture Board has full jurisdiction to implement a separate fee structure for the renewal of previously approved distance education courses, a separate fee structure, without the need of any changes to the existing legislation. Let me address the specific law now that you're citing. I might be cut off, and I can continue that in the agenda item 25. So paragraph 1, subsection N reads, fees for continuing education course applications shall be assessed for the continuing education provider, and it goes into the numbers. This paragraph refers to course applications and does not mention renewal fees. We believe this is an opportunity of flexibility for the board to be able to decide on its own a separate fee structure for renewals of previously approved courses. Paragraph 3 of subsection N reads, an approved course may be offered for a period of 1 year from the date of board course approval. This paragraph does not mention what occurs after the 1 year period is finished. It does not strictly mention that a brand new application must be submitted, and we believe this provides a second point of flexibility for the board to be able to determine what occurs after that year is complete and to implement a separate system for course renewals. Moreover, Section 4970 begins with the text. The amount of fees prescribed for licensed acupuncturists The amount of fees prescribed for licensed acupuncturists shall be those set forth in this section unless a lower fee is fixed by the board in accordance with section 4972. Section 4972 reads, fees fixed by the board shall be set forth in regulations duly adopted by the board. We interpret this as giving full and final jurisdiction to the board at present time, should it seek to listen to these grave concerns and implement a separate fee system for course renewals.
Time had been reached. Next, we have an individual identified as Lauren Brown. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. Lauren Brown. I'm a provider, Healthy Seminars. I'm a registered doctor of traditional Chinese medicine in British Columbia and also a CPA. I want to reiterate Dylan's point that the small issue with the renewal fees is looks like it is a board decision on an administrative level and does not require legislation, and we like that to be revisited. There was discussion in this agenda item about communication and why only a few people have written letters to talk about this fee increase. This is not, I think the reason you haven't heard a lot of feedback is nobody has really heard about this. I'm a provider, and I heard it through rumors. Somebody who was on a board member, who was on a board meeting a couple months ago, finally trickled down, and I heard about it. The letter only went out on Wednesday, December 16th to providers. Maybe this is why you have not heard anything, due to the lack of communication. It was mentioned also that there's a lot of transparency with this board. I think the transparency may be more in substance than in form. Substance as in, yes, you can go to the legislature and find these bills and find this information. We can dig through hours and hours of minutes, but not in form. It would be nice if this was explicitly shown on the website. I still, as of December 16th on Wednesday, could not find this easily on your website, if it even exists, only through combing through the minutes. So yes, transparency, yes, it's available to the public, but it's definitely not made easily. So I would love some more transparency from this board to make it easy for your stakeholders to find this relevant, important information. I'd also request better communication, as in I only found out about this on Wednesday, and I had to talk to other large providers who also had not heard about this. I'd please like you to look to your stakeholders when making these decisions. It has been said in this meeting that this was a significant policy change, these fees. So talk to your stakeholders. The four providers that wrote you the letter are one of your larger providers, maybe making up 50% of your continuing education courses. None of us were contacted by that third party or by the board when making these decisions. I think it's imperative that stakeholders are advised so they can make comments and not be rushed 15 days before the enactment of this new policy. Doesn't seem reasonable. Also, I would like to just add to this, since we're in the year of 2021 almost, when you do the renewal fees,
30 seconds.
Please allow an online payment option. Currently, we have to send checks. In 2021, most businesses don't use checks anymore. If you could allow credit card payment online, that will also help your stakeholders. Thank you.
Next, we have an individual identified as Donna Chow. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. My name is Donna Chow, representing Lotus Institute of Integrative Medicine, eLotus, and I'm also a board-certified California acupuncturist. And I'm here in unison with other C providers, Net of Knowledge, Healthy Seminars, and Pacific College. We believe the new provider fees are reasonable. However, our concern is implementing the fees towards course renewals as well. As Dylan Stan and Lauren Brown mentioned earlier during their public comment, the cost can be upward towards $30,000. For eLotus at least, this means that the provider fees will change from $150 biannually to around $30,000. It's a big difference. After reviewing the California Business and Professions Code Section 4970, we believe that the Acupuncture Board has full jurisdiction to implement a separate fee structure for the renewal of previously approved distant learning courses without the need for any changes to the existing legislation. Currently, there is a lack of a separate system for course renewals, which show to be unrealistic and damaging to teachers, practitioners, the industry, as well as the public. This concern is urgent as it will result in a sudden loss of education for the industry and financial losses for teachers and practitioners. This will trickle down to a loss for the public and the safety of the public because it is important for practitioners to be able to have access to continuing education that will expand their knowledge and have them to be able to learn as much as possible to better help their patients. Understand that they can take classes and not earn CEUs, but they're not likely to take those classes if they can also get continuing education for their education. Limiting this ability can be a public danger. We urge the board to put our letter on the agenda for the next meeting, and we urge the board to come up with a separate bulk discount system for course renewals, similar to a system that maybe the NCC-AOM has already have. The ability to do so is fully in line with legislation. Also, from a practitioner standpoint regarding the wall license and including the expiration date, ask yourself, do you look at license expirations of your hairdressers that you go to, restaurants you dine in, or even the elevator that you ride in? It's highly unlikely. Patients are unlikely to look at this, and adding a cost to post a certificate on the wall for each place of practice seems like an unnecessary added fee. And that is all. Thank you.
Our next public comment comes from Ron Zaidman. Your microphone has been unmuted.
I am sorry, moderator. This is the President Mateki.
Yes.
So before we move on to Mr. Zaidman, I apologize to interrupt. I just wanted to make all the everyone's aware. We do have items on the 24, 25 to discuss the fee issues. So I would really, due to the time, and then we still have, few agenda here, I would like to address the public. Some of the question, if you related to the bill here, that's fine, but otherwise, let's certain, comment. I would like to discuss it in the item 24 and 25. Thank you. So moderator, please.
Thank you. Ron Zaidman, your microphone has been unmuted.
I will defer my comment to items 24 and 25 on fees later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Madam President, all of our first round requests for public comment have been made. We do have a request for a second round comment. Would you like to hear that?
If it's the same questions related to the fees, I would like to move later. So let's just continue our item 22. If there's question addressed for the item 22, that will be fine. But otherwise, let's just wait for the second round.
Let me see. Public attendee Neil Miller, does your comment pertain to agenda item number 22, or can it wait till 24 and 25?
In the interest of supporting Dr. Mitaki wanting to move forward, I can wait.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there are no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're very welcome. This feature has been closed.
Okay, thank you. So now let's move on to agenda item 23, regulations update. Christine, please.
Thank you, President Mateki. So the following is an update of the board's regulations, and it reflects also what is on our current rulemaking calendar. The first item is AB 2138, and we did review a phase in that rulemaking process yesterday, where the board went over the public comments that were received. Excuse me. When the proposed regulations was noticed. And so that is underway, and we will continue on with that, moving on into the final statement of reasons phase. Senate Bill 1441, which is the implementation of the uniform standards related to substance abusing licensees, as well as the update to the disciplinary guidelines. Again, that was taken up yesterday, and we did get that the board did vote to change the revision date, to update it, and have that modified text from AB 2138 updated within the guidelines. And so that will allow us to move on with our, we are working on the initial statement of reasons. It's very close, and that is our next goal, and definitely a priority, getting that over to legal for review. And we do have a goal of January 31st, 2021 as a filing. And then Senate Bill 1448, which is the disclosure of probation status to patients, that's also included in the disciplinary guidelines package. So that will go through at the same time. Number 4, which is Senate Bill 1246, aligning the curriculum standards and approval related regulations with statutes. Those proposed changes were brought last year, and during August board meeting, and that rulemaking package is under staff development, and we're looking for an early 2021 completion, and get that under review with legal. AB 2190, which is the application process criteria and procedures for approval of a credential evaluation service. That has been under review, that has been under development with staff, and that just needs to be, we do have proposed language. We're just needing to schedule that for a future licensing and examination committee meeting. So that will be on our to-do list for next year. Increasing the board fees, that was, we did actually estimate that was going to be done through a regular rulemaking package. So we had regulatory language that we brought to the board last August, and the board did approve that at that time. So that was up for discussion last year as well. However, after legal reviewed when the bill got approved, which is the authority for implementing the regulations, they identified that it could be done through a Section 100 change, which is a more straightforward, quick update, because the statute sets the fees. And so we have to just follow what the statute says. There's no discretion there. So we did submit that rulemaking to legal, and they went ahead and that got submitted to Office of Administrative Law. So that's underway, and that happened just this month. And then the next item, application for retired status. That proposed language got approved by the board also last year during its August board meeting, and that is under staff development, the rulemaking packages. And this continued education requirements, we do have proposed language, and proposed language and research was brought to the Education and Research Committee last on March 28th, 2019. And then additional research was requested by the committee, and that's being brought to the board for discussion and action. We're hoping, maybe by the March meeting, we can bring that to back to the board. And then we did add another item for telehealth. This is actually not on our official rulemaking calendar, but obviously the board yesterday did make a vote to put it on our 2021 rulemaking calendar. And this is moved up in priority, just given the circumstances with the pandemic, and that it's a feature that our acupuncturists and just the medical field as a whole is using. So that proposed language, we will work on that further, refine that, and bring that to the next board meeting. And that's all I have for the updates to the regulations. The following rulemaking track form is just more of a visual showing you all of the steps that you can see that are involved in the rulemaking process and see where we're at on each item. And I will note that next week we'll be meeting with our regulatory legal counsel, and we will be developing the 2021 rulemaking calendar and the items that we're going to take up next year. So are there any questions on anything?
I don't have anything to add. Other board members?
Not for me.
Okay, thank you, John. So if all board members have no question, thank you, Christine. We will open up to the public, and I really appreciate the public being really support the board. Please, if you have any comment pertain to this item, moderator, would you please open up to the public?
The Q&A panel has been open for public comment. If you would like to make a public comment regarding agenda item number 23, please type "I would like to make a comment" and send to all panelists. You will be provided 3 minutes and given a 30-second warning. With that, I will pause just a moment to allow individuals time to access this feature. Madam President, at this time, I take that back. We have received one request for public comment. Dylan Stan, your microphone has been unmuted.
I'll make this very, very brief. I just, on the topic of regulations, want to reiterate that I propose that the board considers new regulations for adopting a bulk discount rate for renewals of previously approved continuing education courses, which would be fully in line with the current legislation. Thank you.
There are no additional requests. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Feature is closed.
So let's move to agenda item 24. And thank you, Christine, for your wonderful work again. So let's move to the agenda item 24, discussion of 2021 implementation of the requirement for the wall license. Oh, Christine, is yours too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, President Mateki.
Yes.
I wanted to address that this is a completely different legislation, different bill than what our new fees was. There was some crossover because there were new fees identified by the wall license legislation, and that was Assembly Bill 779, and that actually got enacted into law in 2019. Not just this last year, it was 2019. It did have a delayed effective date or implementation date of January 1st. And I do want to point out that this was always included in our legislative reports, the wall license, the changes there. And so there was a discussion at all of our board meetings in the 2019 calendar year. And I believe the final update was brought, I think, at the end of 2019, because at that point it had become law. And I also want to point out that, so we have always had in existence a wall license section requiring that each licensee within 30 days register each place of practice or notify the acupuncture board if there's not a place of practice. And then there is always a requirement that a wall license be placed or posted in a conspicuous area in a licensee's place of practice. And then if they were to have more than one place of practice, they were required to obtain a duplicate wall license to display. And the wall license sort of just looks like almost like a diploma or certificate. And I do want to note that we are one of the only boards that has, it's called an engraved certificate. We're one of the only boards that did that. So the new law has some new requirements, and I also want to note that coming from enforcement, anytime that a complaint was received, a lot of times an added violation that could be or that would be discovered during the investigation is that a licensee failed to register their practice location or didn't have a wall license properly displayed. And so that may not get captured in the statistics because the overarching category for the complaint fell into something else. And then that was sort of an added violation. So I did want to bring that up. It has been a long problem for the board capturing everybody's places of practice and their address and having compliance with that. And so sometimes we didn't even know if somebody was licensed, things like that. So just going into the new provisions of the new wall license, licensees shall register all places of practice with the board and obtain a separate wall license for each place of practice, which will now have a unique identification number, and the prefix for that will be WL. And then that will be renewed every 2 years, and that will coincide with the licensee's renewal date. It also requires that the licensees who do not have a place of practice are practicing outside of their place of practice to carry a valid pocket license, which has kind of always been done as well. Some other key provisions, the licensees are to post an active and valid wall license at each place of practice. Licensees are to notify the board if they do not have a place of practice. And again, went over this, that they need to carry a pocket license in any treatments outside of their place of practice. And they would need to show that pocket license and have it available upon request. It also requires a licensee, again, to renew a wall license every 2 years. And the new law states that a wall license is non-transferable, and any change to a registered location in connection with a wall license requires a new wall license and the former wall license returned to the board with a request for cancellation. It also provides that an initial license fee includes one wall license registration if a place of practice is specified in that application. So for example, if I'm an applicant and I do sort of have a place of practice lined up for when my initial license is issued, on the application, if I have that place of practice identified, then I don't need to pay extra for that wall license. It is included. It also sets a separate fee for a wall license, for a replacement, and for a renewal. And then the fee bill, this is the crossover I was talking about, the fee bill AB 3330 raised those fees and set those at $50. And it also sets a pocket license replacement fee. It provides that a licensee shall be responsible for the acupuncture, Asian massage services, or any other. Actually, I believe the Asian massage was taken out. A licensee should be responsible for the acupuncture or any other practice specified under Section 4937 of the B&P Code, rendered pursuant to the license of the acupuncturist in each place of practice maintained by the acupuncturist. And then going to the next page. And again, all of this becomes effective January 1st. And like I said, this really relates to having better tracking, having greater accountability. It really is a consumer protection related law. And I also want to point out that when this idea was being developed, a lot of research was done of other boards. This isn't unique. This is being done with other healing arts licensees. And it just, like I said, promotes more public protection, and the board then has more tracking purposes and makes licensees more accountable to comply with these requirements. So if the board has any questions, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. So let's see. Board member Chair Harabedin, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Christine, for the presentation. Just a quick question, and noting that we've received some pretty strong public comment on this already. What is the process for renewal that the licensees would have to go through to actually just renew the wall license?
Thanks for your question. So it would be very similar to renewing their license. So when they receive notification that their acupuncture license is up for renewal, if they have a wall license issued to them, the expiration date will be on the same date as their acupuncture license, and it's just a $50 renewal fee. And we are Jay is working with on the BizMod. We will have online functionality for renewing the wall license. That should be January 15th. And we will also have a paper application posted to the website come January 1st. And it's just a pretty straightforward process of renewing both, and it will just sort of become a new routine to include fees for both.
Thanks. Yeah, I would love to hear from our practitioners on the board, you know, Dr. Mateki, board members Chen and Kim, just their views on whether this seems onerous, because we've heard comments to that effect, and I'm curious as to their views. So thank you.
Thank you. So I can start, and other board members wanted to chime in. You know, I know from my experience with, you know, I have a 2 wall license now. One's a physician license. Now I have the acupuncture license. So the part I remember in the past that the discussion, the war license, the price was different than current ones. So the renew, when we do the renew, was online, and I don't believe we don't have like every 2 years renew for the Western medicine license. Currently, with the acupuncture license, I will fall into renew every 2 years. You know, this is where I think I have some kind of the feeling about this. I think there is one part is good with a war license you renew. It's kind of like the pocket license, you know, every 2 years. But is Canvas being a little bit consolidated. So I would assuming this will create a lot of work for the board staff too. So that's just my part of it. You know, I understand this is a go to the law. Not sure, you know, what we can do, but I remember a couple of years ago when we discussed this, the price was different. So maybe member Kim and Dr. Chen, you guys can, you know, discuss that also. So I hear, you know, the stakeholders, because not sure at this point. I know Western medicine, we don't have that renew every 2 years. So member Kim and Jay, you guys wanted to chime in, please go ahead. And member Kim, are you?
Yes. First of all, I in this process, and then I remember boards reached out to all, I don't even remember how many associations, out to their opinion and input, and most of them, I believe, they didn't receive any input, or they say okay. Most of them, oh, was okay. It was, of course, before the pandemic. So I think it's because of this pandemic situation also contributed to this sticker shock. And also, as a board, Acupuncture board is a small board. So if you look at other boards' budget, it's really, really enormous. For those boards to provide the service for all these license related businesses and all these activities, I think it's not a outrageous thing to increase the fee, and also for the continuing education, I do see some of those continuing education providers came up with all these ideas, but when we were discussing this, it was before the pandemic, and most of the licenses, including me, prefer to travel, to go to the seminar, sit in, and then associate with other licensees and colleagues. So for those who cannot make it, they were on this distance online courses. Of course, I see there's a big. I didn't realize that much of impact on this online continuing education CEU providers, but yeah, we can work this one out. But as far as I am concerned, I've been asking some of my colleagues, and they say okay, because it doesn't affect that much of their business. And of course, some, like I said, there's a lot of retired licenses who are already halfway retired or they don't practice. They just keep renewing because license renewing fee was not that much, and also for those who are like half-time practitioners, I think this is a kind of a sticker shock for the for this time of pandemic time. But for most of them who have regular hours, full-time, dedicated clinic, I think it's all. I think it's not that a big impact. And by the way, the law has passed. It's been working board and all the staff been working with this legislative process has been passed. So if we want to discuss this, we need to have more discussion, maybe for change of the legislative process. So yeah, I believe the ship already has sailed.
Thank you, Member Kim. And I see Chair Harabedin and Jay, would you mind I would like to hear our attorney here. So Chair Harabedin, so please go ahead. I see you have the hands raised.
I'm sorry. I need to take my hand down. It was the same question I already asked. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So Jay, and also I see Dr. Chen. So let me go to Dr. Chen first, then Jay, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Yeah, I want to see what our board member and licensees. So Dr. Chen, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mateki. So as a professional, I'm LAC. All the stakeholder, their voice I heard, and I heard before and I heard now. I totally understand. I'm also in this pandemic. My business cut down. The patient decrease is from both sides. I don't want them impact. So too many people in the clinic is not safe. So some patients, if they are not urgent, I advise them, give some telehealth, some advice, stay home. And only people really want to come to acupuncture, I accommodate them. So patient also worry about the safety, so some of them not coming. So it's and I know some clinic just closed. So for maybe a couple months, they didn't have business. So I know it varies. Some professional LACs okay. Some of them really difficult to pay anything. So this is not coming in the right timing. I think, okay, about the war license, basically, I will support this idea because like Christine Brothers said, this bill, the purpose is to protect consumer. So the consumer will know every clinic, if the LAC have additional practice place, each of the place should have a wall license to display. And this is the good purpose. It's not for from other. I mean, this is a good bill to protect consumer. So of course, I support it. The problem is it's not right timing for this year, for the next year to implement. But it is the way it is because it is a law. So I understand. I really have sympathy, empathy with all the professionals. So second is about the fee. I was not participate in this decision about $50 for every 2 years. So if all the LAC stakeholders, they complain a lot, the voice is loud, maybe we look back to make some adjustment. So right now it's $50. And how about one possible way is if the first time waive the fee or renew, then charge a fee, because the practitioner, when they just got a license, maybe they have student loan, want to pay, they have difficulty for maybe wait for 3 years, then charge, something like that. Because now we have, since the business modernization, and it's available for practitioners to renew online. So it's easier for the staff and for practitioners. Or if the second place of the wall license, maybe charge more, charge additional, because they can afford, they have bigger business, right? So maybe they can afford more. The first wall license is a better price. The second one charge more. Something we regulate, because from practitioners to practitioners, they have different situation. So, and we want to encourage this profession to be able to provide the service to different area of the consumer. So something maybe you can consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Jay, please. I know you've been raising your hands for a while.
Thank you, Dr. Mateki. No problem. I just wanted to clarify a few things too about the wall license and how it's going to be implemented. So the first thing to clarify is that the pocket license, you'll continue to get that as part of your renewal. So you won't have to be paying that as part of the renewal every cycle. The other point I wanted to make too is when this bill was done, it was done before we had done our fee study. And once we had done the fee study, we identified that any kind of administrative form processing was a minimum of $50 for the board to be able to handle it and process it. So the reason it moved up is it was, we're doing the same thing with all of our smaller forms, as you'll learn later, that they're set at that rate. So that's why the fee got bumped up. The other point that I wanted to really make, and in terms of sort of the pandemic and the bad timing, the requirement for the wall license is rolling out by renewal month. So and it's starting in January. So somebody who had to renew this December, they won't have to do their wall license and pay the additional renewal fees for 23 months, right? So people that are renewing in this January, they will, right? So, and then February, we'll have to do it March. And so it'll take a period of 24 months for this to be implemented in there. The other observation too is that while that acupuncturists are typically practicing in in single locations, they're not in multidisciplinary places where there's other advisories or other oversight, right? So this is just a way for them to be noted, for the board to know where they are, as Christine mentioned from her presentation earlier. And often you'll see, maybe up to 4 acupuncturists in one office, and understanding that each one of those acupuncturists will have to identify themselves where they are located in terms of that stuff. And then the final point is the $50 fee over a 2-year period comes out to about $2 a month increased fees. And so this is underlying another issue with all these fees, is that the increase in fees, I think this was a case, in fact, by working at the board, I know it was a case before the pandemic, but it's been exacerbated by the pandemic, that any additional monies is a very big burden for acupuncture. So they're very much on the line, and we do hear that. That said, the board still has to carry out its business to be able to, we have to do the same things that other licensing board does, which does allow for the practice of acupuncture. So that's my point of view. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Jay. So another part of this is just the question, I have in the back of my mind right now when everyone's discuss it, right? I understand, our licensing fees has been increased. But the part I wanted to see is because sometimes I see, I do hold, the physician license, and the fees is quite significant high. And also we have, DEA certificate. So we have a more license and regulations for us to add it into the cost. So my part is, this is something we look at, okay, I have a license fees is increased, and is this in the future can be just included, add the wall license fee into it instead of a separate. Also I know there is a public mention about it. So the other license board, this is the only one have the wall license, being separated. Would other, chiro board, I believe everyone's fee right now is increased, by the legislature, because just every cost has been increased with this implementation of the computer program. So if this is something we can look at, just add it all together instead of separate. This question is not as, this is a redundant question. So not sure, maybe Ben, someone can help out. I'm just, I hear the public, the stakeholder, and also the licensees, so I understand Dr. Chen supported, but I'm just, on the side, I think it's a lot of work for everyone.
President Mateki, I can kind of speak to, the fact that it's separate. It is sort of seen as a separate license type, and lots of other boards have, multiple license types that they have to process. The online system will look to make it a lot more convenient, and that it can be done all through one step of renewing. And possibly Jay could speak to that in terms of like the functionality there. But I think it will be more streamlined than it sounds. And there is just going to be one like renewal reminder that's going to be going out for both. And but I understand, like you're saying, everything's kind of lumped in for your medical license. That makes it a lot easier. And this is an actual like separate license type. So I don't know if it can really be done that way, and they're identified as separate fees. But I think just in terms of like the interface for the licensee when renewing and maintaining it should be fairly easy and can be kind of lumped together in terms of the transaction. So hopefully that answers that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Christine, for the clarification. And then another question I do have is about the payment. And I know Jay mentioned early, so do the licensees can pay this after January 15 is because it sounds like they still have to pay by check, or so is our EO Bodier. If you have the answer, please.
I can speak to that, Amy.
Oh,
What's going on with it is that we are just finishing up the IT development of the program, and just because of the way the release is coming, it's not going to be available to the public online until the 15th. So if people want to do that early, and this is really focusing on just January renewals, they can do it with a paper application. But note that that's not due until the 31st, and actually most licensees are renewing in the last week of the month in general in terms of that. And then also to the functionality of it that Christine mentioned, the way it'll work is that once you have a registered wall license, when you renew, it'll just be there, and it'll be totaled all in one thing. So you can do the transaction all at once. So once you go into the renewal process, If you have an existing wall license and it's being renewed at your renewal, it'll just renew at that point. It'll be total at that point. So you really only have to do one transaction in renewal. If you're changing it, then that there will be a separate way of entering in and managing your wall license or your wall licenses. So hopefully that adds some clarity.
Yes, thank you. And I did renew mine September online, and it was quite convenient. I have to say, it's really make a lot easier for the process. And thank you guys. I don't think I have any further questions on this issue. So yes, Ben, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a comment on the possibility of rolling the wall license fee into, aside from what Christine pointed out as a separate fee, for a licensee that had multiple wall licenses, technically the rest of the licensees would be funding their additional wall licenses if we rolled it into one. So this way is actually assessed to the individual and their specific desire for practice or business, and carried on an individual licensee basis.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you. And I understand now why from 15 jump to the 50 is this is just from any applicants or application process administrative cost by law is a minimal is 50. So now I understand. Thank you for the clarification, Jay and Ben. I don't have any question. Any other board member? Yes, Ben. You have any you wanted to add?
Thank you, Dr. Mitik. Just one last item, just to underscore again, we understand that the price change is a challenge for some, but this fee was set for wall licenses at $15, had not been changed for over 3 decades, and with the cost of rise of inflation, it falls in just under $50. So in today's dollars, as opposed to when it was initially set. Just another item for people to consider.
Thank you. And we do, I know early the stakeholder public mentioned that they were supported when the fee increased. Probably we are the only board for over 30 years have not really have any fee increase with all the cost, everything's increased, especially the IT implementation. So we appreciate the support, understanding, and thank you, Ben, for leading your team to work on this. It's never easy for the fee increase. So I don't have any further questions. Is there any question from the board members or comment like to discuss? No? Okay, so I am going to open up to the public, and I understand we have the next item also. So for the public, please, if you have already spoke about this, and we would appreciate it, maybe just give a summarization of your statement or your comment. But for the new ones, if you have not spoke, please tailor to the wall license issue. Appreciate it so much for all you guys, the support for the board and willing to work with the board. So we will get through this. Thank you. And a moderator, please open up to facilitate the public comments.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to make a public comment, please type "I would like to make a public comment" in the ask box and send to all panelists. All other means, such as raising hands, will not be addressed for public comment. So if your hands are raised, please lower it and type "I would like to make a comment" and send to all panelists. First up, we have an individual identified as Dylan Stan. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Hi there, thank you. This is Dylan Stan from Net of Knowledge again. And just before we move on to the next agenda item, which, as you know, concerns us greatly, I just wanted to share a response to Hyun Francisco Kim. Thank you for your acknowledgement of our comments. We respect the perspective that people appreciate in-person learning. However, I would submit that it shouldn't be relevant to the issue of distance learning that we are raising. That would be akin to saying that books don't matter as much because, people like to have conversations. It's just apples to oranges. And even still, it does not take away from the real consequences that will happen to real people if our letter is not addressed in the short term. Hundreds of courses will be immediately dropped by big providers and small providers just like us. Many teachers and practitioners depend on that as supplementary income. And the library of knowledge of the industry will be lost. I will reiterate that the current law that has passed does not conflict with our proposal. The ship has not sailed. The law fully allows for our proposal of a separate fee structure for renewals of previously approved courses. Particularly subsection N, paragraphs 1 and 3, allow the board flexibility to implement it in the way that we have proposed in our letter. And the entire section, 4970, that you are basing your recent actions on is prefaced with the text. The amount of fees prescribed for licensed acupuncturists shall be those set forth in this section unless a lower fee is fixed by the board in accordance with section 4972. And section 4972 reads, fees fixed by the board shall be set forth in regulations duly adopted by the board. That the board has full control to consider this. The ship has not sailed. The board has the responsibility and the jurisdiction at this time, and this is an urgent concern. So I encourage you to please add our letter to the next agenda, and please also include on that agenda our proposal for a bulk discount rate for renewals of previously approved courses. Otherwise, we are fully in agreement with the addition of the course application fees and the increase of the provider fees, whatever we can do to support the California Acupuncture Board. We think it's absolutely necessary. But it's the way that this one thing has been overlooked, and it's a big oversight. It's going to have big consequences. So thank you so much for listening.
Next up, we have Neil Miller. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. Neil Miller for Cal Atma. Christine's summation is correct in that this was done in 1989, that there was something for all licensees about having 30 days notice and so on and so forth. But that is not the issue that we're talking about. We're talking about the fee for this wall license. This wall license fee was not part of the rulemaking regulations package. It was changed after the fact, which violates the Administrative Procedures Act. And the fact that this was done after the last meeting violates the Open Meeting Act, that there are decisions made that affected the consumers that did not follow the rules. We have no problem with you keeping track, having something up there. You get a new licensee every 2 years, you get a new wall license, and you renew, and you get your pocket license. I am telling you publicly now, I am not going to pay this $50. This is as Neil Miller is an individual, and I am recommending that the profession do not pay this $50. And how is that going to affect the budget of the board? 2,000, 5,000 people say this $50 is ridiculous. I have a pocket wall license that is renewed every 2 years. You know where I am. If you send me a renewal and you get something back that says I'm no longer at this address, you now know that they have violated the law. Go after them instead of punishing everybody else. If you roll it into one, like Ben said, you would be getting everybody to go, you would be absorbing the fees for everybody else. For one office, it should come when you get your license, and every year you renew, and you have a pocket license that shows the date. Someone comes in my office, they see my wall license, and they say, can I see if you are current? Yes, here's my wall license. Like you go into a restaurant and you say, have you passed the health inspector? You have a thing up there that says you passed. Let me see the current certificate. Let me see something current. This $50 fee was done non-transparently, which is normally the direction of this, and we're not going to stand quietly while you charge us $50 in violation of the law. And let's be clear, this was not noticed publicly. I go to these meetings. I have my notes from the past meeting. Nobody talked about this $50 fee. This is an abuse of a fee that is not necessary. Seconds. If it costs almost $50, then you include that in the licensing fee. You don't include that in the renewal fee. This $50 should not be paid. What are you going to do if we don't pay? What is the fine? Are you going to arrest me? Are you going to suspend my license. I am starting a revolution to not pay this fee. It is unusual, unacceptable, and illegal.
Next, we have Michael L. Fox. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you, Acupuncture Board. I have a series of questions I'm just going to fire at you. First of all, I was licensed 15 years ago, and so one of the comments that you mentioned to me was that I'm going to have to return outdated license. So 15 years ago, I got this beautiful license that I've been hanging on my wall and carrying around with me at every location that I've been at. Am I going to have to return that so you can shred it? This is something important to me. What is going on with that? In terms of what we're talking about, a pocket license being part of our renewal fee. So a pocket license is a part of our renewal fee, and I'm paying for that. What is to prevent me from saying to you, I don't have a place of practice, and I'm relying on my pocket practice, and that my pocket practice is now going to substitute for my wall license? Why are you doing that? And finally, I want to look at some financial things. The board needs to just, whatever the restriction is or the resistance is, we need to be able to pay by credit card online and get over this reliance on checks. This is odious at this point in the world. So I am hoping that Jay and the IT folks have said, yes, we're going to allow credit card payments as part of our renewals, whether or not that is for our license or our wall license, this new license. And then I'm going to add some math to this. As Ben said, a duplicate license has always been required for every place that we practice. And so every one of us licensed acupuncturists who have practiced in multiple locations have been required by law to pay $15, that's $15, to be present at a different location. So the increase is really only $35. So the new cost is a total of $2.08 per month for the 2 years, and the increase is only $1.46. So really, folks, $1.46 increase. And I want to finish. I want to finish with a reiteration of my question. Exactly what is to prevent me from relying on my pocket license to practice wherever I want? Thank you very much.
Next, we have an individual identified as Ron Zaidman. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Ron Zaidman from Five Branches University. First, I would like to reflect the excellent work that the Acupuncture Board staff and members have done over the last years, and that you understand that our public comment is to further help the success of our Acupuncture Board. For the wall licenses, universities like ours are very grateful that leading practitioners take time off from their private practice in order to teach at a school. They obviously make more money in their private practice than in teaching, so we appreciate that sacrifice. The idea of melding this fee into the general fee, I think, is a good idea, rather than making it separate. Because if you make it separate, now a practitioner will say, oh, if I'm going to go teach, that's going to cost extra money. I've got to get a license up there. And the same thing, if that same practitioner wants to practice in another area in order to give service to that area, there's a cost to it. So we've added some negative incentives that aren't really necessary if you were to integrate that fee into the total amount. As others have said, the fee is not that significant, but it is a red flag each time, a negative flag each time, that to do that, it is going to cost extra money. And that, I don't think that is necessary. Thank you.
Our next public comment comes from Stacy Nelson Hicks. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. It also is regarding this new wall license. I'm just curious to see if there are other professions who are licensed and have to take CEUs to retain their license, such as attorneys and medical doctors. Do they have to get new wall licenses every time they renew? I know we want to keep up with our peers on a professional level, so I'm wondering how that's handled in other professions. And again, I do have my wallet license, and I don't understand why I can't use that, because it comes with a date every 2 years saying that I'm current. So if you can explain that to me, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Our next public comment comes from Donna Chow. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. About the wall licenses, it seems like the main focus is for public safety so that they can tell when a practitioner has an active license. But my concern is how many of these consumers will actually walk to the wall of their practitioner's wall and check to see. And who's to say that these practitioners, or maybe people who are not very honest, they could replicate one too. So it's not as accurate, I feel, as if a consumer is to check online. So for the safety of the public, it seems better to have some kind of campaign to let the public know that this is what they should do, because they won't automatically know to go check their practitioner's wall. And by the time they're in the office, they're already making an appointment. They've already made an appointment. They're already there. And then now with COVID, a lot of these appointments are done, not a lot, but it could be telehealth, and the consumer can't go and check the wall. So I just want to just bring that comment up, just because it seems that the reason for these wall licenses is for the public health safety, the public safety. And as President Mateki said, it would also increase the workload for the staff. So just to have everything work effectively for all parties involved, the consumers, the practitioners, and the staff, it just seems like having this wall license and having a new charge for it seems to be added work that may not be necessary. And maybe it could be utilized another way. That is it. Thank you.
Madam President, that is the end of first round comments. I do have an individual that would like to make a second comment. Would you like to hear it?
Is this related to this item regarding wall license issue?
Fantastic. Let me check.
Thank you.
Michael Fox, is you the wall licenses?
Yes, it is.
Go ahead, please.
So,
Michael Fox, is your comment related to the wall license?
yes, my comment is related to wall licenses. Can you hear me?
Please continue.
All right. So, I would like to follow up with Stacy's comment. I would say, folks, I live in Hollywood. I am in Los Angeles. I'm in the center of what we hope to be the film capital of the world. And my 9 years of experience in the film industry have included set design for creating fake licenses, set design, diplomas, documentation of every sort of thing that might apparently look legal on film, which is then shredded upon completion of the film. So I would comment that it is easily possible for anyone of minimal graphics capabilities to recreate a duplicate which the public would not know anything about. This is what we do in Hollywood. We create things that look pseudo-real when necessary for film purposes. So you are not going to improve public safety by this wall license. You are not. What you're going to, when you want to create public safety, you want to talk about, can I check with the board? The board is busy. Can I look online? Well, yes, you can look online, but a piece of paper on a wall, any wall, is not going to protect the public. I promise you, it's not going to protect the public. It's going to look like something sort of real, something that might pass for film, and were it employed by an actual licensed acupuncturist, I agree it would be illegal. But the point is, it's not going to be employed by an actual licensed acupuncturist. It's going to be employed by someone who wants to deceive the public. So this is not going to be a helpful bill. Thank you very much.
At this time, there are no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. Feature has been closed.
Madam President, this is Fred Chanyu from DCA Legal. Just want to emphasize the fact that the wall license fee of $50 and the renewal fee are mandated by statute, and the board really has no discretion on this fee. Anyway, I just want to emphasize that point.
Thank you, Fred. So I know we really appreciate the licensee stakeholder here to help, and we hear what you have brought to the board, and also sincerely we wanted to see how we can work this up. So I would like to there is the next item before we move on. I would like to take a break of 15 minutes. So we will resume at 1:20. So let's take a break, and then we will come back for the item 25. Thank you.